All right, before we begin our formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council, we first have the business to do, meeting as the Assisted Housing Governing Board of Directors. In addition to the members of the Phoenix City Council, we have Miss Ruth Wiesnehan. Hope I pronounced that correctly. Great to see you. This is your first meeting as a member of the board. Great to see you. She's been a resident of Pine Towers Apartment for over 5 years and a member of the Resident Advisory Board for 2 years, and serving the residents of Pine Tower as the tenant resident assistant for 4 years, handling after-hours emergencies. She's a nurse by trade, having spent over 20 years specializing in mental health nursing, to become an international travel law and geography instructor for TWA, and she permanently relocated to Arizona after the merger of TWA and American Airlines. So welcome to the board. And we'll begin our business now. I'll call the meeting to order. And would the city clerk please call the roll?
Board Member Disposition.
Here.
Board Member Gallego.
Here.
Board Member Nowakowski.
Here.
Board Member Stark.
Here.
Board Member Valenzuela.
Here.
Board Member Waring.
Here.
Board Member Wiesahan.
Here.
Board Member Williams.
Here.
Vice Chair Pastor.
Here.
Chairman Stanton.
I am here. We'll now move on to the minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from our May 31st, 2017 meeting?
Motion to approve.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next is a proposed resolution to approve the approval to implement the rehabilitation of the Foothills Village Public Housing Community through HUD's Rental Assistant Demonstration Program. Is there a motion on that resolution?
Motion
I move to approve.
There's a motion. There is a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
No.
Well, one no. So that's Jim.
9-1.
What, is Councilman Waring on the phone?
Yes, I'm a
Okay,
no.
good. He's a no as well. There are two no's. Okay, 8-2. Okay. Next is number 5 is a resolution approval to issue RFP to create a supportive housing utilizing up to 50 HUD project-based Section 8 housing choice vouchers and up to 100 project-based Veterans Affairs supportive housing vouchers with supportive services. So basically, vouchers for housing first for veterans. Is there a motion on item number 5?
I move to approve.
There's a motion and a second. Any comments or questions from members of the board? All in favor say aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item is item number 6. Item number 6 is a request adoption of the Phoenix Public Housing Authority proposed fiscal year 2017-18 asset management budget. Is there a motion on number 6?
I move to approve.
There is a motion and a second. Any questions from member of the council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes.
No.
Oh, one no. Was there two no's? Councilman Waring?
No. Sorry, no.
No problem. So that passes 8-2. Item number 7, request to approve approval to enter into 2 contracts with Gorman and Company as the co-development partner in the redevelopment implementation of HUD rental assistant demonstration conversion of 2 multifamily properties in the city's public housing portfolio, Crone East and Foothills Village Apartments. Is there a motion on number 7?
I move to approve.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. Any questions or comments from members of the council? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No. No.
2 noes. Okay, so that passes on a 8-2 vote of the Assisted Housing Governing Board. That being all the business before this board, is there a motion to adjourn?
Adjourn.
Is there a second? There is a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Ms. Wiesahan, your first meeting. Great job. Congratulations. Thank you for your service. All right, now we'll move on to the business of the City Council formal meeting, and I'll ask our city clerk to please call the roll for our formal meeting.
Councilman DeCiccio.
Here.
Councilwoman Gallego.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski.
Here.
Councilwoman Stark. Councilman Valenzuela.
Here.
Councilman Waring.
Here.
Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Pastor.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here, Ms. Marquez is here as our interpreter. Please introduce yourself.
Mi nombre es Leticia Márquez. Si necesita asistencia o traducción al español, por favor, véame. Gracias.
Thank you so much. Now, on our agenda is the time for citizen comments. Citizens have up to 3 minutes to provide testimony before the City Council on any non-agendized items. Right now, I have 4 cards for citizen comments. The first one is Tim Sierakowski. Mr. Sierakowski, please come forward. Great to see you. Mr. Leonard Clark is next.
Good morning, Tim Sierakowski. I want to thank everyone for all their hard work that you do every day. I have been very hard on the city council members, and today I'm going to say you've done a great job. We've achieved a great deal in the last number of years, and today I'm on my best behavior, and I'm going to say thank you so much for the hard work that you all do. And I want to thank you for all the people that don't really understand all the hard work that you do. I'm thanking you for them also. So I don't need my full 3 minutes today. I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Chief Williams, could we investigate who has kidnapped the real Tim Sierakowski? I mean, all right, next, Mr. Leonard Clark, followed by Stephanie Winborn.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I'm a resident of Phoenix in beautiful District 1. I just wanted to say some things as a Phoenix resident. There was an individual who lost his life on July 4th over at the Salt River. His name was Nicasio Gonzalez Lopez. And, you know, being a person who really believes that our earth is being polluted and we have a lot of environmental problems, he drowned in the process of trying to clean trash out of the river. So I just wanted to recognize the fact and let everybody reflect on the fact that we had a resident from Phoenix who was trying to make our world a better place, and he drowned, and I have the strongest condolences for his family and loved ones, and as a fellow resident of Phoenix. Also, I'm concerned there was a family, and it was just in the news, that had anti-Semitic vandalism on their mailbox in Phoenix, and as you know, in this world right now, with all the passion and the anger and the lines being drawn, some of the stuff that happens around the world comes into our own city. I'm hoping that it says the Phoenix Bias Police Unit is investigating it, but I also am hoping that you got the federal government involved because, I mean, they did vandalize a post office box, and that's a federal offense, I'm hoping, and they go after these people. Also, there was an argument where people were shot multiple times. Again, gun violence, and I'm full of passion. I get angry, unfortunately, and the thing is, we all need to take a step back and calm down here in the city of Phoenix to try to lower our anger. Also, even though you know that I believe that we should have a civilian oversight board for our police department, I want to recognize the fact that an officer who was serving us all in our city was injured on Father's Day. And this officer is James Wolfenden, and his family needs help, and I know that the Phoenix Law Enforcement Association is having a fundraiser. I hope that you could spread the word to help this officer who was injured. I am not anti-police. I am not for or against, you know, I'm just for justice, and we're all in a tough position when we're trying to enforce the law. Also, last thing, pedestrian deaths are rapidly rising in Phoenix, and I understand a lot of people, like myself as a jogger, you know, we have to be careful when we're crossing the street. But I do know a lot of drivers are acting aggressively to people who are either on bicycles or walking. So just because you see somebody that's not in a crosswalk, you may think, well, I can kill them and get away with it. I mean, they're still human beings, so try to calm your temper down behind your half a ton or ton car when you see another Phoenix resident crossing the street. It's not worth taking their life. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Ms. Stephanie Winborn is next, followed by Roger Peck.
Good morning. I'm one of the homeowners in the 5500 block of Calle Tiberia. We live next door to one of the 2 senior group homes that were approved while the spacing consideration was suspended by the City of Phoenix. In the interest of avoiding a court battle, we've negotiated with the developer of the homes and we're working with the city to have our end of the cul-de-sac gated off. We feel this will help preserve our property values and eliminate concerns with traffic issues. Originally, I came to this meeting to request that the acquisition fees for the street be waived, but after doing some research, we found that this is unlikely to happen. Instead, we're requesting that the city bump up some much overdue maintenance of our street before it is abandoned. I've brought some photos so you can see the current condition of the road. The city has performed no work on our street since it was resurfaced in 1997. The asphalt is cracking, there are potholes, and loose gravel is breaking up on the surface of the street. Our street should have had a slurry seal already, and delaying the seal any longer will result in major resurface work being required as the asphalt breaks apart. In all fairness, we believe that a group of neighbors paying to acquire an abandoned street should have the street turned over in maintained condition. Please look at the pictures I've provided of our street condition and ask yourself if you think it's fair that the neighbors pay for a street that is in disrepair. Please remember that we are only pursuing the gating of our street due to circumstances that were caused by the city not enforcing the separation ordinances on group homes. We're asking for a slurry seal on the 5500 block of Calle Tiberia at the city's earliest possible convenience. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And I think City Clerk will maybe grab that information from her. Thank you for coming down this morning. And then Roger Peck from our Parks Board is here. Great to see you.
Thank you, Mayor. I think you can hear me without this for sure. My name is Roger Peck. I live at 10630 North 17th Way, Deborah, in your area, in Moon Valley. I think all of you know me, and I have been involved with city activities for going on about 8 years since my retirement from the corporate world. And for the last 3 years have chaired the Parks Board, now as just an active member of the board. I'm here to ask you folks to give some real consideration to increasing the funding for our 3PI component. You can build a lot of things, but then we have to maintain them. And you have the same challenge with our road systems, all of our infrastructure within the great city of Phoenix, and the 0.1% or 1 penny of every $10 of sales tax is all we have to work with to build all of the future and developments that we have where you can really enjoy. I mean, there's not a single one of us have not taken great advantage of our park system. You can hold it, feel it, touch it, see it, use it, and get the enjoyment on a daily basis. So please give consideration on the November ballot to increase this to 0.2%. Include into that a provision that a larger percentage of it is used for the maintenance of the parks. We have projects on the drawing board for the last 10, 15 years, and when you see the enthusiasm of the neighborhood in the Lido Park example, I think, Mayor, you were down with me, Ed, you were there as well. It took them 14 years to get that project built. It was a $3.5 million project, and now, of course, we have to have the funding for maintenance. So please, I've spoken to many of you on an individual basis. I think it's timely to do it. The November election is coming up, and please consider putting this as a proposition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Peck, and for your great service to the City of Phoenix on the Parks Board. I have no other citizens for citizen comments, so now we'll move on with our regular agenda of the City Council. Would the City Clerk please read the 24-hour paragraph?
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances numbered G6335 through 6343, S43579, 43648, 43701, 43746, 43748, and 43771 through 43816, and resolutions number 21557 through 21560.
Thank you very much. We have no meeting minutes to approve, so now move on to boards and commissions. Was there a motion to suspend the rules and take 158 and 159 out of order?
Motion to suspend the rules and take items 158 and 159 out of order.
There's a motion and a second.
Yes.
All right. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we'll suspend the rules, and now we'll take 158 and 159 out of order. That's the boards and commissions. Is there a motion to approve mayor's, boards, and commission nominations?
Motion to approve mayor's, boards, and commissions nominations.
There's a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Is there a motion for city council boards and commission nominations?
Motion to approve city council boards and commissions nominations.
There's a motion. There's a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That also passes unanimously. It appears that there are many citizens here to be sworn in for service on boards and commissions. I'll come down to the floor and swear in those individuals, and afterwards they'll come behind the dais so that members of the city council can thank them in advance for their service. Board or commission that you'll be serving on. Most of your veterans. All right. Please raise your right hand. I, and state your name. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of, fill in the blank, according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thanks in advance for your service. Thank you so much. All right, next we'll move forward with our agenda with liquor licenses, items 1 through 75. Vice Mayor, is there an omnibus motion on liquor license applications?
Motion to approve items 1 through 75, except 1 and item 73.
There's a motion, there is a second. Are all the cards in favor of the motion? They are, so we'll have those for the record. So there's a motion in favor, a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Those pass unanimously. Item 73 is, oh, there's a card, I'm sorry. Is there a motion on item number 1?
Move approval.
There's a motion, a second. Mr. Leonard Clark, did you provide testimony on item number 1? This is a liquor license for Walgreens.
Mayor and council members, my name is Leonard Clark. No, of course, I'm not here to oppose it. I'm neutral. I just was curious. It was like 20, 30, I forgot, dozens of the corporation Walgreens suddenly getting their liquor licenses passed. And so I'll do my due diligence as a citizen and see why all of a sudden is a Walgreens corporation. I know it's free enterprise, all that, but why are they getting like 30 or 40, 10, 20, 30, 40 liquor licenses all at the same time? Sorry to my lobbyist friends, I know you don't like that, but I'm a citizen and I have a right to speak. So just curious about why Walgreens is getting 20 or 30 licenses approved at the same time when most businesses, you know, it costs a fortune to hire an attorney to come lobby you folks to get it passed. So I'm not saying I'm against it, just an item of curiosity. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much. So on our agenda are many items for recommendation relative to Walgreens. Ms. Archibald, why are so many Walgreens items on today's agenda?
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Denise Archibald with the City Clerk Department, and with me is Esteban Gomez with the City Prosecutor's Office. For Walgreens, they have changed members of their LLC, which is considered an acquisition of control, and pursuant to state law, it is required for them to file applications with the Arizona Department of Liquor Licenses and Control, and therefore all of their locations are affected by the change of members in their LLC.
Thank you. Any other questions?
There's a motion in favor of 1. There is a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any
Yes.
opposed? That passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item number 73. Item 73 is a proposed liquor license in District 8 in Councilwoman Gallego's district. Councilwoman, how would you like to proceed? Staff recommendation.
We can do a short, well, actually, I think, do we have any cards in support of the item?
No, we only have 2 cards opposed, including a representative of the Phoenix Police Department.
Wonderful. In light of that and the fact that we've been working with the Coronado Neighborhood Association and we have a lengthy agenda, I think I'm going to go ahead and just make a motion to disapprove based on the police department recommendations for disapproval. There are concerns that the applicant's recent history of liquor law violations is this problem, and with the location, the applicant has not demonstrated the capability, qualifications, and reliability to hold a license, and the applicant has not demonstrated that the license will benefit the community. I want to thank the Coronado Neighborhood Association for working with us and pointing out the large availability of liquor already in the neighborhood, as well as some particular problems with this application, and would welcome testimony if the officer and the Neighborhood Association want to, but otherwise, I think we have a good record on this item.
All right, so the motion is in opposition to the liquor license. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There is a second to that motion. Officer Aaron Stevens, thank you for, are you here? Please come forward. Is there anything you wanted to add? We want to make sure we get everything on the record because we know that our friends at the Liquor Board peruse this record very carefully and make sure it's thorough and that we get everything on the record as for the reasons for why the police department is recommending opposition to this liquor license.
Very good. I'm representing Detective Westfall, who headed this investigation. Very quickly, historical information. Sergio Jimenez Guadarrama, now I apologize for the mispronunciation, and his sister, Marlene Jimenez, opened the Cassandra nightclub at 1639 East McDowell Road in August of 2016. They began advertising on Facebook for bartenders, waitresses, and staff for the bar. No applications for liquor license were received for this location until this application was filed in May of 2017. Phoenix Police off-duty officers working across the street from this location at the Caramba nightclub at 1724 East McDowell Road. In August of 2016, Officer Knight Fogel contacted Detective Westfall and stated she observed on several occasions the Cassandra bar seemed to be open. Knight Fogel expressed concerns that they were not properly licensed. On September 14th, 2016, the Arizona Department of Liquor received an anonymous complaint that the location was unlicensed and selling alcohol. According to the DLLC investigation report on September 23rd, 2016, an inspection was conducted of the location by DLLC officers. Upon arrival, they asked to speak to the owner. Sergio Eduardo Jimenez identified himself as the owner of the location. The officer observed security at the door, lights dimmed, loud music was playing, and there were approximately 50 individuals at that time sitting at tables, most of whom were in possession of alcoholic beverages. Mr. Guadarrama explained at the time it was a private party, all the alcohol was free, and he intended to apply for a liquor license, but wanted to have a few private parties before opening to the public. In October 2016, Officer Fogel contacted Detective Westfall again, and she noticed that Cassandra's Facebook page was advertising a birthday Halloween party planned at the bar for October 28th. Detective Westfall contacted Officer Williams with the DLLC and coordinated a covert inspection of the bar for the night of the party. 2 officers went into the bar in plain clothes and were able to purchase alcohol. There were several patrons in the bar who were interviewed. They all said they had purchased their alcohol. During the investigation, Mr. Jimenez Guadarrama stated he tried to get a license for the alcohol, but state licensing told him no. To this date, this is the first application received from Mr. Guadarrama for a liquor license, and there's no history for him applying for a license. Sergio Eduardo Jimenez Guadarrama and his sister Isabel were both cited by DLLC Officer Williams for this violation, the sale of alcohol without a license, a Class 1 misdemeanor. They pleaded guilty to this offense and paid, and were to pay a fine. Mr. Jimenez Guadarrama was also cited for a compliance violation and is ordered to pay a $2,000 fine. The DLLC sent letters to Mr. Guadarrama, I'm struggling with that, asking him to pay his fine. He ignored these letters for 6 months. When he applied for this license, his application was flagged because of ignoring the DLLC back in September. He was told to get a license. He refused to do so and held an event in which he sold liquor without a license. Therefore, Mr. Jimenez Guadarrama is not capable, qualified, and reliable. The Phoenix Police Department has concerns regarding the issuance of this liquor license at this location. There are several existing businesses with liquor license in the area between 16th Street and the SR 51 on McDowell, including the Aqua Nightclub, Caramba Nightclub, Delirium Nightclub, and Plush Gentlemen's Club, to name a few. There is currently 1 Series 7 beer and wine bar, 7 Series 6 bars, and 17 Series 10 beer and wine store locations in the 85006 zip code that satisfy the area's need and convenience. ARS 4-203 states, a spiritus, thank you, liquor license shall be issued only after a satisfactory showing of this capability, qualifications, and reliability of the applicant, and with the exception of wholesaler, producer, government, or club license, that the public convenience requires and that the best interest of the community will be substantially served by the issuance. Therefore, the applicant has not demonstrated that granting a liquor license for this location is in the best interest of the community. Based on the criminal history of the applicants relating to liquor violations at this location and the applicant's failure to comply with the DLLC requests, the applicant is not capable, qualified, nor reliable to hold a liquor license. Additionally, there are currently several existing businesses with licenses in the area that satisfy the area's convenience and needs. Granting a license in this area is not in the best interest of the community. Therefore, it is the recommendation that the City Council recommend disapproval of this application.
All right, thank you very much, Officer Stevens, for that very, very thorough report. It's important that we get all that on the record because that gets reviewed by the Liquor Board when they make their decision about whether to make the final decision to grant this license. Thank you so much. Michael Anderson, representing the Coronado Neighbor Association. I don't know if you want to provide testimony. I know she indicated that the neighborhood is solidly in opposition to this proposal, I'm assuming? Please. Thank you so much. Okay, good. All right, so we have no other cards in this item. The motion is for disapproval for the reasons stated by Officer Stevens and because of the neighborhood opposition. There is a second. Any comments or questions by members of the City Council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yeah, so the motion for disapproval passes unanimously. Next item, we're going to move to ordinances, resolutions, new business, and planning and zoning. Vice Mayor, is there an omnibus motion on those items?
Motion to approve items 76 through 160, except the following: items 80, 84, 86, 88 through 93, 106 through 108, 110, 111, 113, 114, 115, 140, 150, 154 through 157, and 160. Item 122 is as corrected.
That is the omnibus motion. Is there a second on that? There's a second. Would any member of the City Council like to pull any additional items from the proposed omnibus? All right, are there any cards on those items? All right, the motion is in favor. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Yes. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Waring. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion passes 8-0. Unless Councilman Waring, do you want to chime in now?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you heard me. Yes.
Got it, okay.
Got it? Okay, sorry.
Motion passes 9-0, unanimous. Okay. Next item on the agenda is item number 80. Item number 80 is a proposed contract with R&R Partners for Innovation District Branding Strategy. Is there a motion on item number 80?
Move approval, item 80.
There's a motion and a second. Are there any cards on that items? Would any member of the city council like to have any comments or questions?
Mayor?
Councilman, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I generally and always vote against these outside lobbyist contracts, and I will do so on this one here. But just to let you know, these two individuals, Karen Cruz and I believe Rory Hayes, even though they're Democrats, I believe that they are really good at what they do. And I did not know that they were involved in this, but I do know that they have a really good reputation. But I am going to be voting against these outside contracts only because I believe the city council themselves can handle almost all of this.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman. The item on the table right now is item number 80. Item number 80 is a proposed contract with R&R Partners for Innovation District Branding Strategy. I think a vote on the contracts you referenced will be a later item on the agenda. Do you have any comments as it relates to R&R Partners and Innovation District Branding Strategy?
Yeah.
Councilman? Councilman DeCiccio?
Yeah, no,
The item 80 has to do
We're on
with,
item 80.
the item 80 is R&R Partners, and it's for a proposed Innovation District Branding Strategy. I didn't want you to vote no because you were opposed to a different item.
right. Well, I combined them both together.
Okay. All right, no problem.
Sorry.
So item number 80, the motion is in favor. There is a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Noakowski. Yes. Stark.
No.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes 6-3 for the city council. Next item on the agenda is item 84. Is there a motion on 84?
Move approval, item 84.
Second.
There's a motion. There is a second. Any comments by members of the city council on 84? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Noakowski. Yes. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes 7-2. Next item is item 86. Is there a motion on 86?
Move approval, item 86.
Second.
There's a motion. There is a second. Any comments on 86? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Noakowski. Yes. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. I think I have 7-2. 7-2 as well. Next item is 88. Is there a motion on 88?
Move item 88.
Second.
There's a motion, a second. There are a few cards on this item. Mr. Stan Lubin, followed by William Aguirre.
Good morning. I'm here again on behalf of Local 2384 of AFSCME to speak this time in favor of the motion. You'll recall a week and a half ago when the council met, they asked us to meet with the city manager's staff to see what we can do to compromise and put together a proposal that we can accept. And we have done that, and I wanted to thank the manager and the representatives of the HR department, especially Jim Wine and Cindy Bezrosi, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Heidi Gilbert and Polly Rapp of the Attorney's Office, and Tony Macarone of the City Manager's Office for meeting with us and reaching a compromise agreement that we can all agree to. This proposal is for an interim amendment to the rules of the personnel rules concerning absenteeism for illness, and it will take effect until January 1, by which time we hope to have before you a more permanent solution. And again, thank you to the staff and to the council for your consideration.
Thank you much, Mr. Lubin, for taking the time to get involved in this issue and helping guide us to the right interim solution. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
William Aguirre, and you have cards donating time if you would like to speak for slightly longer than 2 minutes.
Good morning, Mayor Stanton, Vice Mayor Pastor, council members. My name is William Aguirre.
I'm a resident of Phoenix. I live in the Garfield neighborhood. I'm also the Secretary-Treasurer of AFSCME 2384, representing the blue-collar workers of the city of Phoenix. I've been working here for about 6 years. And if you could bear for a little bit of personal background, I believe it might help to bolster the points I'd like to make later. Before coming to work with the city of Phoenix, I worked as a IBEW journeyman electrician throughout the Valley and the greater Southwest. In Las Vegas, building casinos, of course. In Los Angeles, modernizing their city hall. UCLA, running network and communication systems. Biomedical centers in San Francisco, expanding some of their high-rises for financial institutions, San Bernardino powerhouses. I've been around my trade and worked in many different municipalities and cities. Here in Arizona, Flagstaff, Douglas, Yuma, Globe, Tucson, and most every city in this valley. Helped build the Cardinal Stadium, the Glendale Arena, our convention center, well, doing a lot with the city now. I did all that traveling. I chose to do that as a young man for the experience, the aspects of my trade. And we built highly technical electrical structures that the citizens and businesses of the cities rely on. The point being, I made all those choices where to work and live as a young man, but the choice to live and work in Phoenix, I made that for my family. To be present and involved in my own family, in my community, in my workplace, in our governance, that was a choice made for my family. And the city councils of truly great cities know that the foundation of the citizen workforce is based on healthy, functioning families and communities. Good cities want to attract skilled employees that have a choice to where they're going to work and have a career, a place where they can provide and care for their families. I presume that this city council wants to attract the best workers to Phoenix. And although what's on the table today has nothing to do with increasing pay, employee pay, increasing time off for sick leave, it doesn't detract. This personnel rule changes that are on the table can allow a city worker to better take care of their families with some changes. We believe that it's in its current form, this personnel rule does not serve the city well, and yet we thank the good people that worked with us in HR and city manager's office for submitting this interim policy where in the time frame allotted, all employee groups will be able to meet and work hard to develop a final personnel rule that without doubt complies with the law and serves the best interests of the city. So again, I thank you for considering the voices of the employees and your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Geary. Next will be Leonard Clark. Did you have testimony on this item? How about Ray Kell?
Good morning. Council members and mayor, my name is Ray Kell, and I'm a resident of Phoenix, a city employee and a union officer for AFSCME 2960. Although my card says against, I do support the interim policy. However, I have a concern that I really want to make sure gets on record. As I mentioned when I spoke last week, myself and other citizens voted to approve Prop 206. I voted for it because I wanted the right to utilize my sick time as needed without fear of discipline, along with not having to provide personal details if I did need to call out sick for myself or an immediate family member. I also felt it very important that our part-timers who currently have zero benefits get paid sick time. Fortunately, with the passing of this proposition and the current implementation, our part-timers will see this, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate the fact that the City of Phoenix acknowledges the proposed personnel letter is interim and should not be considered a finished product. I appreciate the invitation attended to the unions that represent the City of Phoenix employees to help formulate a more permanent personnel rule. Mesa has applied the rules of the new law to all their sick time, and although Mesa employees' sick time accrual is capped, it is at a very generous rate of 1,040 hours per employee, and they are given the option to convert any hours over the cap to vacation time. To me, this shows Mesa's acknowledgement to their employees that their sick leave is truly a benefit for them to be able to utilize. We haven't seen Tempe's application yet, but we have heard that it will be similar. Again, for Phoenix to just apply the minimum of the law makes me feel undervalued as an employee, and also makes me feel like Phoenix is lower on the list and less likely to attract qualified employees. I do want to go on record with something I brought forth to the attention of our HR department early this week regarding shift differential. And again, thank you for calling me in to discuss these issues. With the passing of Prop 206 and the new paid sick leave, per the updated FAQ section, the Industrial Commission is proposing rules consistent with the following. Shift differentials in premiums meant to compensate an employee for work performed under the differing conditions must be included when computing an employee's hourly rate for earned paid sick time purposes. I was told in a follow-up conversation that the City of Phoenix attorneys do not think this applies because the new law also states, all or any portion of the earned paid sick time requirements of this article shall not apply to employees covered by a valid collective bargaining agreement to the extent that such requirements are expressly waived in the collective bargaining agreement in clear and unambiguous terms. There's nothing in our MRU written that would lead me to think that such requirements are expressly waived in the collective bargaining agreement. For the city to take the chance on a lawsuit while we work together to try to get this interim policy solidified for something as minimal as our shift differential by not agreeing to pay it, even though it is clarified in documents on the Industrial Commission's website, to me seems like a mistake. Has me concerned a little bit about the intent in the proposed work group, but I am glad that we're all going to go together forth and hopefully get this all worked out. I appreciate the chance to share my concerns with everybody, and have a good day.
Thanks so much, Ms. Kell, for that testimony. Mr. Manager, I don't know if you could briefly, mainly for the benefit of folks watching at home, since we continued this last time to this time, you're making a recommendation to council about how we handle this issue. Maybe you could briefly explain what your proposal is.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So we do propose that this, as we've proposed it to you, be in effect for the next 6 months until December 31, so that we have a chance to work with our labor groups on a more full discussion of the entire sick leave program. Our sick leave program is something that exists today through 40-plus years of collective bargaining and exists in MOUs and MOAs. And so we think it's through that process that we best have the conversations about it. I would thank Mr. Lubin and the members of AFSCME for working with us in the last few weeks. Mr. Holm can describe more specifically the issue raised, if you like, on the differential pay or any of the others.
No, but the idea is this is an interim idea,
Yes.
and you're going to create a working group, and we're going to discuss all these very important issues, and we'll have a more complete, longer-term solution before the end of the year, I'm assuming?
Mayor, that's correct. So the action by the council today really sets the stage for management and labor to sit down and begin working out the issue comprehensively about sick leave under the rules of 206 and the Industrial Commission. And the rule does say that it is through December 31 of 17. So yes, we will be back to you before the end of the year with a proposal that we've worked on together.
All right, thank you very much. So the motion is in favor of the item. There was a second, is that correct? Any questions or comments by members of this council? Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor?
Councilman Nowakowski first, and Councilman Warren, I'll get you next.
Mayor, I just want to thank our city staff and our employee unions for sitting down at the table and trying to find some common ground and making sure that we treat our employees justly. And I just really want to thank you for all your hard work and bringing it to our attention, and our city manager and their staff for working it out. So we have until December 31st to make sure our employees are taken care of, and hopefully we do the right thing. We look at the best practices of other cities and make sure that the city of Phoenix has the best out of all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Nowakowski. Councilman Waring?
I think that was Councilman DeCiccio.
I apologize. Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be voting against this. I understand what 206 did. I don't think the public really understands the amount of hours that have already been accrued with sick leave. I asked for staff to prepare a report at the last meeting, And just to give the public an idea of how many hours have already been accrued on sick leave, and this is probably one of the bigger scams perpetrated on the public when they find out about it. I think that they'll be in shock. But there are over 9 million hours on already accrued of sick leave, which on average is about 18 weeks per employee already accumulated. So I'm going to be voting against this because it's also a reaffirmation of the current policy, and I think that that's just wrong. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions by members of our council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes on a 7-2 vote before the city council. Next item on the agenda is item 89. Is there a motion on 89?
Motion on 89.
There's a motion and a second. There are some cards on 89. Ms. City Manager, maybe we get a brief explanation as what you're proposing with 89.
Yes, Mayor. Item 89
Is it excess city land?
is excess city land. Sorry, get my page here. Item 89 is use of proceeds of selling excess city land, and the initial proposal from staff was to use parkland sales, which we believe will be about $7.5 million, and to use those proceeds to turn to the 3PI, or Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative Fund, as a return of money that 3PI used to reimburse the general fund for golf. At the subcommittee meeting, the City Council subcommittee expanded that to request that all land sales go to fund that $15 million payment to 3PI. That was the motion of the subcommittee, which was expanded on staff's recommendation of just the parkland. So before you is a recommendation from the subcommittee to direct all land sales up to $15,032,000 to repay 3PI. I would add that, well, the councilwoman was at the subcommittee.
I'm sorry, Mayor, I have a motion. And when I said yes, move it, I should have read my motion.
No problem. Vice Mayor? Go ahead.
So I would like to move that all eligible parkland sale proceeds to be used to repay 3PI, and further move to discuss more thoroughly in order to determine how to apply all eligible non-parkland sale proceeds in the fall. So I would like to have a further discussion about that.
All right, thank you very much. So I understand the motion would be then parkland sales would go into 3PI.
Correct.
And there'll be a discussion about other land, and we'll come back before the city council for a final disposition of whether or not we would decide to definitively put all land sales into 3PI or not.
That's my understanding of the motion.
That's the
correct.
motion. Okay, is there a second to that motion? Second. There is a second to that motion. Okay, so that's the motion on the table, and as you come give testimony, please understand that is the current recommendation before this body. Any of our professional staff that heard Deanna, your team, did you want to add anything before we hear from the public? Okay. Jerry Von Goss, did you have testimony before the city council? And then we'll have Ms. Greta Rogers go after Mr. Von Goss. And you're marked as in favor, but I don't know if that means you're in favor of the motion just made by the Vice Mayor.
Good morning. Jerry Van Gass, address pretty much anywhere in the park system. It's so vivid in my memory. March 1st, 2008 is when Prop A was officially kicked off. And, I'd never really heard of the Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative prior to that. But I'd worked on land bills with Mo Udall and Barry Goldwater for state wilderness areas. And I saw this and I said, this is unbelievable. 80% of the people voted for this back in 1999 for 10 years. This was an extension in 2008 for 30 more years. And I remember kind of taking hold of the grassroots push for this, because I couldn't believe it. And I said, let's try and get 90%. We got 85, roughly 85% of the voters. And this is, 85% of the voters to tax themselves. It sounds like not much, 1/10 of 1%, but it comes out to about $30 million a year to enhance the park system, which runs $90 million to $100 million from the general fund. So this is $30 million on top of that for, pretty much the largest and without a doubt the most used municipal parks system in the country. $15 million of that money have been sidetracked until now. And, the people want it back. And we were told by an ex-attorney general back in 2013 to stick with those 85% of the people, and you'll get the money back, because they knew what they were voting for. And in 2009, in 4 months after this passed, in May of 2008, we all know what happened, the financial collapse. Nobody would have voted in 2009 for this. But the people love their parks, and so much so that a year later, Michael Johnson was back in Tampa, and the National Association of Cities voted Phoenix an all-American city. And it wasn't for anything that the city did. It was for Prop A. When they saw that the citizens of Phoenix, loved their parks and had enough vision to tax themselves for another 30 years, they said, that's an all-American city. So, they want the money spent where they voted for it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ms. Greta Rogers is next, followed by Roger Peck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Greta Rogers, and I thank all who are in attendance here today. Let me preface my remarks by saying the city of Phoenix is the citizenry of Phoenix. That's what the city of Phoenix is. Us, the citizens. On March 13, 2013, 4 1/4 years ago, $15,640,000 was stolen from the Phoenix Parks and Preserves Initiative Fund by the Subcommittee on Parks and Rec, who voted 4-0 for the taking. And subsequently, that same afternoon, March 13, 2013, the council voted 8-1 to take it and spend it for an unauthorized use. The council committed grand larceny and fraud. The unauthorized use was applying it to golf course operation debt that the city management and councils had allowed to accumulate unaddressed for 15 consecutive years, beginning in 98-9 through 12-13. This is appalling and wrong. You gave the middle finger salute to the citizens of the city of Phoenix and then stuck the finger in their eye. I have no tolerance for people who break the law, and I have no tolerance for people who violate truth. None. And some of 5 of you are sitting here today who were on that council. And all of you who are sitting here today voted yes. And none of you, and I attended the subcommittee meetings on this, and I attended the council meeting, none of you asked for a serious, analytical, legal reasoning and support thereof. You had the city attorney at the time, Gary Verberg, who did everything he could as a city attorney repeatedly during his tenure to tell the council what they wanted to hear, to accede to them and accommodate them. That's not what a good counselor does. But he did it, and he would have done it unless you had proposed committing rape or murder. I want this money repaid in full. It will be repaid on a plan that will be submitted to you by representatives, us, of the citizens of Phoenix, and our attorneys. In this country, the violator doesn't get to tell the violated what the penalty shall be. And 3 of you who sat on that council were attorneys: Mayor Stanton, Tom Simplot, and Bill Gates. And they had no pause in voting yes on this. I guess attorney at law is just a nice appendage to your name without meaning. You all swear an oath to serve with honor and total respect for the laws of this state and the Constitution of the United States, and you violated it in spades, and you said, "So help me God." It means absolutely nothing. It's just a bunch of words you people recite, and you don't act in accordance with the oath. I find you reprehensible, and we, with our attorneys, shall, at your September meeting, submit a plan for repayment and terms and conditions that can be followed and verified. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. Next speaker will be Mr. Roger Peck, followed by Tom Stoops.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. My name is Roger Peck. I live at 16030 North 17th Way in the Moon Valley area. Again, Deborah, we'll have to get together for lunch. For the last 3 years, I had the honor of being the chairman of the Parks Board. Normally it's a 2-year endeavor. I had requested that the 3rd year be granted. I had a couple of items on my agenda. One of the items on the agenda was to find a reasonable way to repay this deficit that we created as a result of the golf enterprise going into an area that it should not have been in at the time. We didn't know that back in 1981. I was not part of the Phoenix Council or involvement with the board. But from 1981 to 1999, which was the beginning of the proposal, the first proposal of 3PI, we could see that this was not working out very well. In other words, the red lines was dropping a lot faster than the green line. From 1999 to 2008, 2008 was the time in which we re-upped on the 3PI initiative for the next 30 years. There was an incurrence of probably $10 million of that $15 million deficit. And each and every year, it was increasing the deficit by $2 to $2.5 million by keeping it in the enterprise fund. Now, I ran a business for 30 years here in the Valley, and frankly, if we had an entity that was losing $2.5 million on an annual basis and we didn't correct it, we would have been fired. And I believe that nobody really wanted to address this, hoping that maybe the initiative would turn around. It became a convenience based upon the language in the new proposition in 2008 that we used the word maintenance. If you look at the proposition from '99, maintenance question was not there. And it was during that period of time that a good 2/3 of that deficit was actually incurred. I encourage you to take seriously this proposition of not only using parks land sale, but also city land sale. It's a deficit. And when I asked you earlier today to consider putting on the initiatives an increase in the 0.1% to help in the maintenance, $15 million is a huge amount of money to us and to the city of Phoenix. You look at the project that we just initiated down the Lido Park, a $3.5 million project. It took 15 years to get that onto the drawing board. So please, take your responsibility. The plan that was initiated originally was as limber, as if my son was to go out there selling newspapers and I said, save the money for your college education and you'll be able to go to Harvard. It was ridiculous. And we cannot, within the Parks Department, exonerate this particular deficit without help. It needs to be funded by the general fund. It needs to be funded by something large enough to eradicate it. And I appreciate your time and thank you for your consideration.
Thank you much, Mr. Peck. Great to see you again. Tom Stoops is next, followed by Leonard Clark.
Mayor and Council, my name's Tom Stoops. I'm a citizen of Phoenix. And some time ago, I was hired by some group of vocal citizens to monitor this whole thing about the taking of the 3PI funds. And of course, I'm in favor of the method of repayment. There are a couple of things that I am a little concerned about. One is that the subcommittee voted on a 5-year time frame. That seems to be missing from the ordinance, and I'm concerned about that because I do think these funds have to be returned in an orderly and business-like fashion. They weren't taken in an orderly and business-like fashion, but I do think they need to be returned that way. Secondly, I'm a little concerned about narrowing the scope of the real property to be sold because there may not be enough qualified property that is unrestricted if it's just parks property to pay this back. And the third thing that I think needs to be considered, and maybe not part of the vote today, but a way of making this more transparent, because there are a lot of people that are very concerned about this and want to monitor it, and they want to help. They want to help get properties marketed. They want to be able to give advice. They're not just angry. They want to be on your side. I'm all in favor of this ordinance, but I think something ought to be taken into account to make it more transparent so that we can help select properties, so that we can put time and energy into finding properties that are eligible, that can be sold at a profit that the city doesn't have a plan for. And that's really what this is all about. If the time frame that the subcommittee suggested is still part of this ordinance, I can't find it. So that's my only comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stoops. Leonard Clark.
Hello, Mayor and Council members. My name is Leonard Clark, and don't worry, I'm not here for a pound of flesh, and I'm not going to turn this into some kind of golf gate. I'm here because of the motion I thought the Vice Mayor making, pointing to the fact that all excess land, something like that, would go towards this fund that you're talking about that would satisfy the credit agencies. And I'm here, though, as somebody standing up for another idea for excess land, not specifically to my friends for the golf gate, but what I'm asking for is in the future you consider excess land, like again, I'm going to keep harping on this. This is apropos because the motion, one of the motions proposed, I believe, is all excess land or something of that nature, that, you know, buildings like the 100-year piece of history building by a Phoenix pioneer right across the street at 4th Avenue not be torn down. Maybe some of this excess land could be done like, like sometimes the federal government will trade one piece of land that a developer wants in order to preserve another piece. So why couldn't we not do that? So I don't necessarily want it all to go that way. I know our astute business people here, everything's about the dollar. But I'm also about helping to preserve Phoenix history. Why not use some of this excess land in that one motion to help save some of our old buildings? Because it seems like in Phoenix lately we're just tearing down everything, unlike some of our sister cities like Tucson. So anyways, thank you. Didn't want a pound of flesh out of you, and I hope Golfgate gets solved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Ernest Martinez. Great to see you.
Good morning, Mayor Stanton, members of the City Council. I'm Ernest Martinez, 1932 East Lamar Road, Phoenix. I'm in favor of the item 89 to replenish the funds in the Phoenix Parks and Preserve Initiative. Thank the council and the Parks Board for the hard work and the citizens in getting this started off. I do have two concerns, reiterating what Attorney Stokes was mentioning, that it would be good to see a timeline in this plan, a short timeline, 3 or 4 or 5 years, and use unused land from other sources that are unobligated to replenish the debt, because $15 million is a lot of money and it could be earning a lot of interest. Okay, and secondly, just to clarify or need assurance that the proceeds from excess land purchased by the PPPI be used directly to go back to PPPI and not to count towards the debt, if I'm clear on that. Actually, that is a question. Will excess lands originally purchased with PPPI funds be used directly for PPI initiative and not to retire this debt?
Okay, maybe I'll turn it to Ms. Janovich or Inger Erickson. Ms. Janovich is Deputy City Manager. Ms. Erickson is our Parks Director. Assuming this policy passes, excess parkland that is sold, I guess the question is, what would the money be used for?
Mayor Stanton and members of the council, if the property was purchased with Parks Preserve Initiative funds, it would go back to Parks Preserve Initiative fund as well. If it was impact fees, it would go back to the impact fee, and like any other fund, it would. So if it was 3PI fund purchased, yes, it would go back to the 3PI fund.
But I think to answer Mr. Martinez's question, we would not double count. So if 3PI, if land had been bought by 3PI and then was sold, we would not count that towards the 15 million, is the intention of the motion.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Thank you very much. All right, I have one more card. The last speaker, he asked to speak last. I moved the card to be last only because you were so nice during citizen comment. You buttered up this council. It worked. So you are the last speaker, Mr. Tim Sierakowski.
Tim Sierakowski. A number of years ago, I was at the meeting that they decided to take the 3PI money. And I was concerned that night about taking the money. I'm concerned now about the money and how they're going to repay the money. It seems like when we were discussing this at the subcommittee meeting, this is the way they were going to do it, and now it's become changed somewhat. I'm just concerned that this is not going to get, once again, lost in the shuffle, that we're going to get the money paid back in a timely manner, and we're going to make sure that the constituents, the people who are taxed on this particular money, receive the benefit of the money itself. I brought up the golf courses. We talked about the golf courses that night. To my understanding, that night, they were not going to really take the money. We're going to discuss taking the money, 3PI money, in July, but it ended up being taken the following day. So looking at the way that it was presented the last time and this time, I just want to make sure that we're protected and that we know clearly what you guys are voting on, what we're going to receive for the vote, and how this vote is going to progress. If you're saying in the fall, then the fall it is, but I think we need to have everything clarified at this point so that everyone is happy with how this is going to proceed in the future, especially the people that are paying the money into the fund. They want to know. Everyone wants to know at this point. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sierakowski. Vice Mayor, did you have something?
No, I'm waiting for the city manager first.
All right, so I wanted the city manager opportunity to, because there's been a lot of discussion about what happened a couple years ago when this city council made a policy choice to treat our golf program like we do other recreational programs basketball, tennis, et cetera. And so take it away from an enterprise fund and bring it into the general fund and make it a recreation service provided by the city of Phoenix. We opted not. There was some members of the council who were pushing for us to sell our golf courses. We made a decision not to sell golf courses. We're going to continue to provide golf as a recreational service of the city of Phoenix. My understanding was that there was an attempt. We said, hey, we understand that we're using parks money to pay for this parks function, but to the extent that the initiative wasn't clear that it would be used for golf. Again, I don't think we laid out every possible item that might be used for 3PI, but it clearly be used for parks and preserve functions. But we would make a good faith effort to pay back the resources. But I want to leave a false impression that somehow that there was a illegal taking of this, because it wasn't recommended then. I certainly don't think. I think on an 8-1 vote of the city council, we didn't do something that was illegal a few years ago. Mr. City Manager.
Mayor, thank you for that question. So I would just start by addressing, first of all, there were words used like stolen, unauthorized use, larceny, fraud, and breaking the law. Absolutely untrue. And the city attorney will verify that. I'm very passionate about that. As you said, we maybe have a difference in legal opinions among people, but this is not about breaking the law in any way. As you said, this was a policy choice made by the council about golf and golf's place in the City of Phoenix Parks and Recreation Department. And if you talk to folks who live around in Canto, Aguila, Cave Creek, Maryvale, Palo Verde, Papago, they are parks facilities. And the law department, Ms. Boland, who worked on this, gave us the legal opinion that the use of 3PI to continue to operate and preserve golf courses instead of closing them or selling them was a lawful use, and the council made that policy choice to do that. So when we're addressing the repayment of funds back to 3PI, I think it's important to use that context that the council is doing its rightful role in policy. There's not this legal obligation that has been posed by some. What this does is it says the pathway to repay that as a policy is, first of all, to use the proceeds, unencumbered proceeds of parkland that will be sold through the city's regular disposal process. And then, as Ms. Pastor noted, to come back for a more full conversation in the fall about other non-park lands so that the council has a full context for the use of those funds as a policy, whether it's for 3PI and golf or whether it's for something else. But that's something rightfully the full city council can do, and that's what I took Vice Mayor Pastor's motion as not closing that option off, but actually using that option for the fall for the full council to have that broader discussion about the second half.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so we have a motion that was made, a second. We heard obviously our public testimony. Now I'll turn to members of the city council if they have any comments or questions regarding the vice mayor's motion. Councilwoman Stark, please.
Just a quick question. So when it was at the subcommittee, did you have a time?
There was a timeline on there, and it was 5 years, and that's what I was going to ask for clarity for that, because it's not in my motion. And so I want to add the timeline regarding the parkland of 5 years.
Certainly within policy direction.
All right, any other questions from members of the council?
Second of my motion was.
Mayor?
Councilman Waring, please.
Yes, thank you. So I voted against this in 2013, the vote, the much discussed previous vote. I just didn't feel it was appropriate to take the parks money and use it for the golf courses. Long story short, not alleging anything other than that. I'm conflicted about this now. It's moving in the right direction. As our staff knows, I had issues with using the non-parks money and putting that into the 3PI fund. I didn't feel that was appropriate, and I won't. It sounds like that's going to come forward, unless I'm wrong, based on the motion that was made by the vice mayor at a later date. The $15 million that is owed, I guess it's a question for staff. We're not expecting to ever sell enough parks-related property to cover all of that, correct?
Mayor, that's correct. At this point, the land that's been identified by the Parks Department as potential excess for sale. Our best estimate is that's about $7.5 million worth of land at this point.
Right, and that is just so the public knows, because I had a couple briefings about this and was confused. That's not a hard number. That's kind of an estimate. So I just don't want people to be disappointed if it turns out to be $6 million or something like that, which would, let's say it was $6 million. Then it would leave it $9 million short. Has any other money been collected to pay off this debt from other sources?
No money has been collected for this purpose.
At some point, something's going to have to be done to pay this back. I think the city has made a commitment to that. I'm willing to vote for this today because of the change from, not including the non-parks money. I actually have qualms about this too, because as far as I'm concerned, this sale of property, these sales and the prospective sales of property, that should be on top of the $15 million. This is using a different source to pay back this debt. I mean, I guess it pays some of it down or potentially half of it down. But as someone who didn't feel this was appropriate in the first place, I just find this mechanism frustrating. At the same time, I don't want to hurt the 3PI fund because I don't like where the money's coming from, and I probably would still say put it in there. I would argue the city still owes the fund the full $15 million. Frankly, and so just let the record reflect. I'd like to see some way. I don't really expect it to happen probably in my lifetime, frankly, given that it's been 4 years and there already hasn't been any other money besides this put towards this purpose of paying this back. But I would prefer that the goal be that this is extra money for parks, given that park stuff is being sold in the first place, as opposed to now it's only $7.5 million that's owed. I feel I'm not happy about that, but I will vote for this today. I just wanted to say my piece about sort of the history of this. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much. Obviously, in 2013, there was a discussion. I think you even suggested that we look at selling the golf courses as a way to raise that revenue. This city council voted 8-1 at that time to make golf, take it away from an enterprise fund and make it a general fund item, just like we do swimming pools or some revenue generated by swimming pools, but it's obviously mostly paid for by the general fund of the city. Same with softball fields, et cetera. We charge a fee for that, but it doesn't recover. I think the reality is that we had to acknowledge that golf was not going to be a break-even operation, but we decided to keep golf as a strategic function of the city and make it a part of the general fund of our city, and that was an 8-1 vote of this city council. Councilman, are you suggesting we continue to look at selling golf courses, or are you off that issue?
Yes, Mayor. I'll just respond to that very quickly.
Please.
I wasn't going to bring that up, but yes,
go ahead.
if you go back and review it, I would have preferred to sell golf-related assets to pay for golf-related debt. Now, the way it works, golf, I mean, you may call it a strategic asset or strategic...
I said we voted 8-1 to make golf a strategic function of the city.
Yes. I was the one who said that's not a strategic function. Police and fire are and so forth. So it's now competing with other parks activities, building swing sets or putting in new swing sets or what have you. I understand what you're saying about swimming. It might arguably be considered, in the same ballpark, no pun intended, as that, if we stick with the sports analogies. But I do think at some point, these are large assets. They're doing better. I will say, I should have said this earlier. I mean, they're definitely doing better than they were. We were losing, up to $2.5 million a year, pretty much year after year, no matter how popular or unpopular golf was or what the economy was doing. These losses accumulated over a long period of time, were left totally unattended, and I just don't think the way this has worked out, we're going to build fewer parks in my district or other people's districts or whatever, or update the parks because of this, and I find that frustrating. I also find it frustrating that golf now competes with police and fire and the rest of what I do believe are strategic concerns. So I do appreciate the opportunity to say that as well. You're right, I lost the vote, so I'm just sort of giving my opinion, but I am voting for this today. I do think this is an appropriate direction for this money to be flowing. Parks sales going back into a parks-related fund. I do think
I
that's
appreciate that
something
very much. Does anyone else on the council agree that we ought to look at selling golf courses
Mayor?
themselves as a way to raise revenue? Councilman DeCiccio, please.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you're using those terms, strategic function, because I'm still waiting for us to put together a list of what considers to be strategic functions for the city. That is not what occurred on that vote. That vote was to get us through a financial crisis that we had. There were promises made that this was going to get paid back. I don't see us selling any parkland in the near future. It hasn't happened in the last few years. I mean, there may have been some movement toward there, but the bottom line is there'll be never enough to pay off what's owed the Parks Department and for our parks for the city of Phoenix. So until the city of Phoenix puts together a real plan, a real direction, I'm going to be voting no on this. I believe that it was owed. This is a taking from the Parks Department. It is. It's taking from our parks land if we don't put together a plan. This was promised to the voters. It was promised to the public, and this does not fulfill that promise. Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, City Councilman. Councilwoman Gallego, Councilwoman?
Thank you. I have a question for our Chief Financial Officer. So we have a lot of very important obligations. Parks is one of them. One that is of a priority to this council is pension management, including our obligations to the Public Safety Pension Fund, our police and firefighters. And so I hope that the economy will continue to do well, but we can't be confident in that. And I'm just trying to think through flexibility and making sure we can balance all of our many important obligations. Could you just help us think through the 5-year time frame and what other factors might impact that?
Yes, thank you. So Mayor, City Council, as you know, in the fall, we've got some pretty tough decisions to make. We have pension financing options we'll be bringing to the council, along with how we're going to solve our budget deficit for 18-19 with BNR. We also need to take in consideration any downturns in the economy over the next 5 years. So we've also, per council direction, just established a pension reserve fund. And so if we put funds in the pension reserve fund, that would give you a lot of flexibility in dealing with any pension issues in the future going forward. So those are just some things that we'll be looking at in the fall.
Okay, and I guess, could you explain the 5-year motion again, just to make sure?
The 5-year, here's the motion. Move to recommend that eligible parkland sale proceeds be used to repay the 3PI, and further move to discuss more thoroughly in order to determine how to apply all eligible non-parkland sale proceeds in the fall. Then I added 5 years to the parkland sale proceeds. It's to the parkland in 5 years.
Meaning we must sell all parkland in 5 years, or meaning we must pay back?
No, meaning all the excess parkland that is eligible, that has nothing tied to it, could be paid back into the 3PI within the next 5 years.
Yeah, so Mayor, City Council, that means that we would have to sell these parklands over the next 5 years, and then we would take those land proceeds and put them into the 3PI fund.
And so we have some land, particularly in the Levine portion of my district, where we've committed to build parks that we've not yet built. What would that mean for those lands?
Is that considered excess parkland?
Mayor and members of the council, many of those lands were built or were purchased with impact fees, and those would not be eligible to pay back the Parks Preserve Initiative Fund.
Okay, thank you.
I believe the Parks Board has a process established to identify lands to be declared excess. So there is a process that gets land in the park system declared to be excess for sale.
That is correct, and we have that list, and right now there's about 10 properties.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councilman Olkowski, please.
Mayor, first of all, I just want to really thank staff for really working hard to improve our golf. You know, in 2013 to 2014, we were in about a $915,000 deficit. 2014 to 2015, we reduced it to $618,000, and this 2015 to 2016, We reduced it to 133,000 deficit. So, I mean, it's going down, it's looking better. What I'm concerned about is that we have 6 golf courses. We have Aguila that's losing about $111,000 a year. We have Cape Creek that's losing about $111,000 also. And we have Encano losing about $32,000 a year. And then we have Palo Verde that's losing close to $300,000 a year. But we on the upturn, we have a partnership, an intergovernment agreement with ASU and with GCU that's bringing in almost $500,000, about $421,000 in profit. So what I'd like to see is some type of a strategic plan, because what we're doing here is we're just basically not knowing which property, if we even have enough property to cover the $15 million. I don't want to make the same mistake as I did back in 2013 by just trusting a report. I would like to see all the available properties and what the value of those properties are, if it even comes up to 15 million or not. The other thing is I'm concerned is that back when Councilmember Claude Maddox was here, we had the Helen Drake Senior Center, and we were going to build a senior center in the Levine area. But at that time, Helen Drake was already had the funding, had all that, and they needed to move them up ahead of the senior center in Levine, so we actually did that. I'm afraid now that property on 51st and Lower Buckeye would be sold, and a possibility for a senior center in that area if the second part happens. The other thing too is that you said many of the properties purchased in the Levine area and South Phoenix are impact fees. That word "many" concerns me. I want to know exactly how many. The same concerns that Councilmember Gallegos has is that we have all kinds of future parks, and that whole area is developing quick with the 202 coming in, and all of a sudden we're going to be receiving more impact fees to add maybe even a library and a community center and all that, a rec center in the Levine area. So I'm just wanting to make sure that that wouldn't be affected at all. So my biggest concern is that there isn't a strategic plan or a timeline or benchmarks on how we're going to replace this $15 million or pay it back. And that concerns me. I think this, out of good consciousness, I can't vote yes on it, where we have 4 of our golf courses are losing about $255,000, and one of them is actually at $300,000 in a deficit. I mean, I want to see some type of a plan or some type of strategic plan for the future with benchmarks that park would be making some money or close to breaking even. And I don't think we have that at this time, do we?
Thank you very much, Councilman. Other members of the council?
That's a question.
I apologize. Go ahead. Is there an answer on?
Or any benchmarks or anything about?
The plan to improve performance at our municipal golf courses?
Certainly, when the plan was adopted in 2013, we established an entire process in the golf division of parks to come back and report to the subcommittee each year. That's one of the reasons why we continue to have this dialogue, is because the report on the state of golf is brought back to the subcommittee, and that will be part of that for this coming year as well. I think someone noted that we have made serious inroads into the expenses of golf in the Parks Department, but that will certainly be part of the discussion with the subcommittee and the full council. And then the question about the parks land that you had, Councilman, that will be part of the discussion in the fall on the broader issue of city land.
I'd like to make a friendly add-on or amendment. If we can actually come up with some type of a strategic plan for our golf courses in the future, then I would feel comfortable voting for this.
Ms. Erickson, is there a plan for our golf course?
Yes.
Maybe the councilman just needs briefed on what that plan is, and we'll spend more time with them.
I actually sit on that subcommittee, Mayor, and I asked for it, and we haven't gotten a report on it.
We have a plan.
Mayor and members of the City Council, we are planning to come back in the fall with the golf, to the Park Subcommittee with the ideas of what we can continue to do to increase revenue to the Parks Golf Fund.
I have
Vice Mayor.
asked the staff to, because it's been requested, and I don't like to put items on an agenda where it hasn't fully been vetted and we haven't fully looked at all the different items in order to present, and so I have asked staff to come back in the fall to come with the plan. This item that we're spending a lot of time on passed through the subcommittee 420, and we have members that are sitting here on this dais today voted 420 and are now having other questions. So what I think I would like to do is I would like to continue this item to August 30th so that then everybody can get briefed on the item and understand what the motion is and be able to understand what we're doing and what we're voting on for 3PI. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so the motion now is to continue to August 30th. That is the motion on the table. Are there,
Mayor?
Councilman, please.
Yeah, that wasn't the motion. The motion that's on the table, other than the continuance, is not what passed the subcommittee. The subcommittee passed all land. I'm happy to do this continuance. I think we should. I don't think we ought to move anything forward until there's a real plan in place that follows the promises that were made to the public at the time that this occurred. So I'll be supporting the motion, Mayor, to continue.
Okay, Councilman Williams, please.
Mayor, I'll support the motion. I was supporting the previous motion too, but I just want to say in all fairness, I don't have a golf course in my district, but I've had contact with many golfers who said, well, yeah, I supported 3PI because golf's part of the parks. And most people, if you aren't associated or closely involved in the system, had no idea how there was an enterprise fund. They thought it was just a regular Parks Department division. And they're very concerned. They do not want the golf courses closed. Golf has declined in popularity, but we all know that those things go in cycles. They go up and down. And many people have built homes adjacent to golf courses because they like the open space. And we have a lot of avid golfers still out there. So I just thought, in all fairness, someone needed to speak up on their behalf because it made the conversation up here sounded like we are very anti-golf. We don't want to continue with golf, and we are in the process of selling all the golf courses. And I just wanted to make sure that is not the case. Thank you.
Mayor? Just for the record, I'm
Kelsey,
very supportive of our golf courses. I just want to make sure that we have a strategic plan with benchmarks and timelines that we would break even or at least get close to breaking even. Just coming up with some kind of strategic plan, that's why I was asking.
Thank you very much. I apologize. I didn't mean to leave any kind of false impression in that regard. We were somewhat reliving the debate from 2013. I actually thought this was a closed issue about whether we made the policy decision that golf was going to be treated like any other function of the Parks Department, like tennis, like swimming, like softball fields. It's a recreational service, and a lot of people rely on that. A lot of people that love golf, can't afford to be a member of the country club, and Canto Golf Course or Aguila, et cetera, is their place not only to participate in the exercise activity of golf, but then to spend time in the clubhouse, hanging out with their friends. A lot of public servants, teachers, et cetera, that live their career in not high earning capacities, but love golf. Municipal golf courses provide a very, very important service for individuals in the community. And we made that policy decision 8-1. Jim Waring, to his credit, has remained consistent that we ought to look at selling golf courses, but that is an 8-1 opposition to looking at selling our golf courses as a way to pay the debt on some of the land purchases that we made to provide golf services all across the city, including in Aguila, in Levine, which was expensive, but it was a good thing to do for the people of the community. So I think everyone's got their questions answered. I know Vice Mayor was concerned that she didn't want to have a vote if there were unanswered questions. Has everyone gotten their questions answered as it relates to what is on the table for a motion right now? Okay, so maybe we can withdraw the motion.
I'll
to continue.
withdraw it, yes.
Okay, so the motion continued has been withdrawn. The second, okay with that? Okay, so the
Wait,
motion.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
Yes.
The motion to continue is withdrawn, or it is on the table?
Yes, the motion to continue has been withdrawn. So now we're on the substantive motion that the vice mayor made earlier, which is to adopt the policy that within 5 years, we're going to sell excess parks land, and that money will go into the 3PI. Brad, I misstated it, didn't I? Darn it.
No, you didn't misstate it, but we need a second on that amended motion.
All right, there is a motion, amended motion, and a second. So the vice mayor, and thank you, by the way, vice mayor, for your leadership. I know you've been working on this a lot, and we appreciate your very smart and balanced approach to get us to this point. And so it is your motion that is on the table. There is a second.
Mayor, can I say one thing about this?
Councilman Warren, please.
I appreciate it. I'll keep it brief. Councilman, I think it was Nowakowski, makes a good point. I believe it's true. We're still losing money on golf. So we're losing less than we used to be. It's hard to pay off a $15 million or, if we do all this, a $7.5 million potentially debt when you're still losing money. I mean, it's been 4 years. So kudos to the Parks Department or park staff for doing better. But it's still not making money, which is my concern. So that sucks money out of the general fund. Councilman Nowakowski raised some good points. I was all for the continuance. And I think given his questions, I think I've changed my mind about supporting this. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you for the time.
You're a yes?
I was a yes. We're voting on Councilman Pastor's original motion, right?
Correct, that's correct.
On the park land, land sale, not on the one that was voted out of,
Right, I understand.
okay.
Yeah, I understand. I do think, though, listening to the
Come
question,
on, Wary,
good points
you can
were
do
raised,
it.
and you lost me with this
Come
dialogue.
on, you can be a yes, let's go.
All right, anyone else want to lobby? Councilman Waring. All right, roll call.
Mayor?
Councilman Valenzuela, please.
So I'm supportive also. I am on the subcommittee. I'm proud to be on that subcommittee, and I remember this vote, and I'm a bit surprised of how this conversation is moving at this point. So now we were primed to cast a vote in support of actually getting some of this stuff paid down to now we're withdrawing it and going back to the drawing board. But if that's the consensus, I'm going to go with it. I will say that I've had conversations, will continue to have conversations with our city staff and colleagues, again, to try to figure out how to make these golf courses something that ultimately can make money. As everyone, as the city staff knows, because they were right there with us as we did this, I worked on the public-private partnership. I was very hands-on on that with Grand Canyon University and the Maryville golf course, which is now one of the most thriving golf courses we have, and frankly, one of the most used golf courses in the entire state at this point. I know there's another partnership with ASU at Papago. I think there might be some others out there, but perhaps some other things that we can do to make our courses more attractive. But at the end of the day, it is a service. We don't, we have to subsidize, if you want to use that word. I guess it is what it is. Parks in general, basketball courts and swimming pools and, tennis and whatever the case might be. It's a cost of living type of item. Our libraries, I can go on. And the council made a decision prior to my arrival in 2012 that this would be something that we would be offering, and it's something that I've been supporting. So that said, I am supportive of the withdrawal now. This is the consensus, but we will be, we're going to continue down the path of making our golf courses, a thriving asset for us. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Mayor?
Councilman Nowakowski, please.
I just want to make sure that the Levine area, that's a growing area, Estrella Mountain area is a growing new development area. We have all kinds of parkland in those areas. I forgot how many acres, but we have about 130, 140 in that area. So I want to make sure that that new development that's going on there, parks that we've promised communities for that are going to be completed, and that South Phoenix I represent also, that there might be some access land We have the cache area, we have other areas, and I'm just concerned that when we talk about all parks land, that some of these areas that really need a park, where the children don't have a YMCA, a boys club, or any other facility to go to, that the parks is basically the only outlet for them, that it's not going to be sold, or that we're not going to be using it for other purposes besides what we promised the community. So that's where the uncertainty is for myself, and that's why in the good consciousness, I can't agree with it unless we had a list of all those parks and what the amount of money that would be, they would be worth, right? Thank you.
All right, so the motion is on the table. There is a second. Any final comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
No.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion passes 6-3 before the city council. Next item on the agenda.
Go. Item 90.
Item 90. All right, item 90, do we have a motion on item 90?
I have a motion to approve the agreement in the amount not to exceed 1.5 million of the requested 5 million, and that the private funds must be raised in order for additional design work to continue and more funds to be considered.
We have a motion. Is there a second? We have 4 cards, all not wishing to speak. Tim Sprague, Daphne Prius from PCA, Margaret Dietrich, and Larry Lazarus. Anybody want to speak on the item? The motion's in your favor. We're good? We're good? Okay. So the motion is in favor. There is a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes 8-1. All right, next item on the agenda is item 91. I have to open a public hearing on item 91. The public hearing is now open. Is there a script? Are there anyone here wishing to speak on item 91, the proposed adoption of property tax levy for 2017-18 fiscal year? Item 91, going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed. Item 92 is next. Item 92 will be a vote on the proposed adoption of property tax levy for 2017-18. Is there a motion on 92?
Move item 92.
There's a motion and a second. Are any of the cards on 92? Would any member of the council have any questions or comments on 92? With that, roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Yes. Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that passed 7-2. Next is item 93. Item 93 is a 8-hour rule request to allow for the city to research and potentially apply for Bloomberg Philanthropies grant monies. Is there a motion on 93?
Move item 93.
There's a motion and a second. Any cards? Any questions or comments from members of our city council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Stark. Valenzuela. Yes. Waring.
No.
Williams. Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Item 106. Is there a motion on 106? HUD rental assistance demonstration rehabilitation of Foothills Village Public Housing. I believe that was on our agenda earlier as well, but we have to go before both. Okay.
Okay. Public art,
Oh,
110?
We still have to vote on 106, right? Okay, so
Which item, Mayor?
106, this is HUD rental assistance demonstration rehabilitation of Foothills Village Public Housing. Can we do 106, 107, and 108 together? Councilman DeCiccio, I know you wanted to individual vote on each of those.
That'd be perfect, Mayor. Thank you for doing
Okay, is there a
that.
motion on
Making it
106,
easier.
107, 108?
Move motion of 106 through 108.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any cards? Comments by members of our city council?
Mayor,
Please.
I'll make it very quick. The information really lacks. I mean, we've asked repeatedly how much it's going to cost, what the the final billing is going to be, what the final amount's going to be per unit. We've received no information on that. I'm going to be opposing this. I've got some strong concerns, as I've written before in some of the papers I've written about how we've used our housing money for the poor and the fact that it doesn't get to the poor. And I think this is going to be just another one of those examples as we get through it. Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Anybody else? Councilman Gallego.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to supporting these 3 items. One of this, item 107, is an innovative partnership which will help us build on our already strong record of trying to support our veterans. So this is a new tool for us to be able to use housing vouchers to support veterans. I'm also looking forward to supporting item 108, which will help rehabilitate some housing in my district. Some residents have been working with us for a long time to improve their neighborhoods and really want to respect their wishes and their belief in their community. So I want to thank the Housing Department for using some innovative tools to try to get new financing in and support these great residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councilman Williams? No? Water? Okay. All right, roll call.
DeCiccio.
No.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring.
No.
Williams. Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. So that item passes 7-2. All right, next item on the agenda is item 110. Item 110 is Community Arts Support Grant allocations. I believe this is allocation of funds to community arts groups from the general fund, from our arts grants program, the amount that we allocated in last year's budget. So is there a motion to support general fund money being spent on community arts?
Yes. Motion for 110. I need a second.
There's a motion in favor of 110. Is there a second? Are there any comments from members of our city council on item 110? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Stark. Valenzuela. Waring.
No.
Williams. Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Councilman DeCiccio, did you have a chance to vote on item 110? Is he off the line?
He's not there. He's not in the line.
Okay. All right, so I guess a vote of 7-1. Community arts is now a strategic function of the city. Item 111, do we have a motion on item 111, National Endowment of the Arts, Arts Works Grant?
Mayor, just to clarify one thing, just for the record, there is actually some convention center money in that as well. The previous item was both general fund
Wasn't
and
just general fund,
convention
okay,
center.
got it, okay, thank you. Item 111,
Move item 111.
is there a motion and a second, any cards on item?
Arma.
Any comments from members of the city council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego. Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that item passes 7-1, 6-1, I apologize. Next item on the agenda is item 113.
Mayor, I have a potential conflict.
Councilman Nowakowski has potential conflict, will not be participating in item 113. Is there a motion on 113?
Move item 113.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Are the cards on item 113? Any comments from members of our city council on 113? Roll call.
Gallego. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yeah.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. It's 5-1? Okay, by I have count of 5-1, item 113 passes the city council. Next item on the agenda, item 114, acquire conservation easements on 3 properties in Evans Churchill. Maybe we get a short staff report on what we're proposing on 114, because I think it's really cool. All blue.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm here today with Chris Mackey, the Economic Development Director, and Michelle Dodds, the Historic Preservation Officer for the city, and they can share with you this great work being done up on Roosevelt Row.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. We are pleased to bring you today the opportunity to do a conservation easement over 3 of the buildings, the former bungalows that exist in Roosevelt Row. It allows us the opportunity to maintain the character and flavor of the area while allowing new development to happen, but this maintains the flair that draws everyone into that market and allows us to protect the bungalows.
Thank you very much. Ms. Dawes, any comments about, you're recommending this as well?
Absolutely. Our Historic Preservation Commission was unanimously supportive of this exchange of community reinvestment funds for conservation easements that will protect the properties for 30 years.
Thank you very much. Is there a motion on 114?
Move item 114.
There's a motion. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. Councilman Gallego, do you have comments on 114?
I do. These are some exciting properties in District 8 and really appreciate this great idea. I think anyone who came up with a great idea like this should not be allowed to retire.
That was Chris Mackey's idea.
Oh, okay. But this is a really exciting opportunity for us. Roosevelt Row was named one of the best places in America thanks to the American Planning Association, where we have great leadership from Councilwoman Stark, and has won many, many other accolades. It is one of our tourism hotspots, a really special place. When people tell the story about growing up in Phoenix and the places they love and what really is unique about Phoenix, Roosevelt Row is one of the places that people mention most often. And this is an exciting opportunity from my perspective. It's a new tool to help preserve these great buildings. It's a great partnership with the property owners as well. So I'm very much glad that we're moving this forward, an innovative tool to protect one of the many places in Phoenix that make our city special. So thank you for your hard work on this item.
Thank you very much for those great comments and your leadership, Councilman Gallego. Any other comments by members of our city council?
I do have a
Please,
comment.
Councilman Vice Mayor.
And it's regarding Paul Blue. We haven't finished. There's one item that has not been completed, and that was a Latino Cultural Center. So I'm not really sure how we're going to move forward, but I will be calling you because you will be helping me on this.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, it is clear to me that you have my phone number, so thank you.
Especially late at night, right, Paul?
Yes, ma'am.
When I'm thinking. Wish you the best.
All right, thank you very much. Any other comments by members of the city council? Roll call.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark. Yes. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. So item passes 7-1? 7-1 before the city council. Next item on the agenda is item number 115. Okay.
Move item 115.
There's a motion in favor of 115. Is there a second? There is a second. Leonard Clark, did you have testimony on 115?
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I support this measure. I think that right now we have a wall between the police, law enforcement, and the people. Many people are young people. I think that much more needs to be done, but a high school course, hopefully, where people who happen to be law enforcement work with young students, especially in areas where they're susceptible to gang violence and all of that. I think that's a great idea. I just wish we could do more of that, and I'm going to stick this in here, but I hope it would greatly help if the students could get to their course with law enforcement to learn about auto mechanics as a trade, if they could partake in the bus service without having to pay, just like Tempe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, there is a motion on 115. There is a second. Any comments by members of our city council? Roll call.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams. Pastor. Yes. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. 8-1? 8-0. That motion passed unanimously for our city council. Next item on the agenda is item number 140. Is there a motion on 140?
Move item 140.
A second, Mayor, if I could make a comment on this
Please.
too? This is kind of an unusual request, however, we are in some critical discussion on water rights, and management services. And it is extremely important that the conversation continue, and these people happen to have been the leaders in this conversation representing the city of Phoenix, so I hope everybody can support this.
Do you have is there a second? Can I make a third?
There's a motion and a second, and not necessary, but included for the record, a third by Councilman Valenzuela.
I agree with the councilwoman. I know she's been a leader for many years on infrastructure, and everyone needs to be a leader in infrastructure, water infrastructure, and we need the proper representation as policies are being made at the state legislature. More than, I believe, 1,500 bills were passed in this last legislature, and probably 300 or so impacted Phoenix directly. And so we need subject matter experts to continue representing Phoenix. I know that some on the council believe that council members can do it all. Frankly, that's not the case, and not when 1,500 bills are being passed. It's good that we have passionate council members who go out there and advocate for what they feel is best. Frankly, many times when council members go out there, they're advocating for something that the council at large is not supporting. So it's important to have the proper representation. We have that right now, and this is a smart move, and I'm also supportive.
Thank you very much. Any additional comments by members of our city council? Roll call.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
No.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
No.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor. Yes. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that motion passes on a 6-2 vote of our city council. Next item on the agenda, 150. Now we're on the planning and zoning matters before the
Mayor,
city council.
I might have a potential conflict on
The
this.
Councilman Nowakowski has a potential conflict on this item, will not be participating. This concerns the northwest corner of 15th Street and Washington. Maybe our planning director, Alan Stevenson, can give us a short staff report on what is being proposed on item 150.
Mayor, members of council, item number 150 is a proposed rezoning request, the northwest corner of 15th Street in Washington, to go from C2 TOD1 and C3 TOD1 to the new walkable urban code for the Transact T56 East Lake Garfield character area. Will allow a proposed mixed-use multifamily office, commercial, and retail development. The Central City Village Planning Committee recommended approval by an 11-0 vote. The Planning Commission recommended approval by the Central City Village Planning Committee, also by a 7-0 vote. It is not here upon appeal. There's no one in opposition that staff is aware of.
Thank you very much. Vice Mayor, you have a comment? We should get a motion on the floor first. Let's get a motion and then comments.
Move approval? Second.
There's a motion and a second. Councilwoman Gallego.
Thank you. This is a project in District 8, and I want to thank the applicant for working with the community, which had very high demands. It's on our light rail corridor, and so we wanted something that fit in with the light rail, a complete streets project. They also worked with us to make sure there was recycling provided for the residents, and thanks to Councilwoman Williams' great leadership, it will be an animal-friendly project as well. So look forward to supporting this motion.
Thank you very much. Any other comments from members of the council? Roll call.
Gallego. Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 154, is that right? Okay, item 154 is a proposed rezoning on the southwest corner of 83rd Avenue and the I-10 freeway. And we'll have a short staff report, then I'll open up a public hearing, take testimony from the public, then I will see if there's a motion on the table, and then we'll take any comments from members of the city council. So staff report. Alan Stevenson, do you have a report on item 154?
Mayor, members of council, I would recommend that we take item 154 and 155 together. 154 is a general plan amendment, and 155 is a corresponding zoning case. It's the exact same property. We'll need two separate motions from council, but...
One public hearing, but two separate motions, is that okay? Okay, great. please.
So, Mayor, members of council, this proposed request is a general plan amendment for the southeast corner of 83rd Avenue and the I-10 freeway. It's approximately 226-acre site shown here in green farmland with the red outline is the parcel boundary bounded by I-10 on the north, Van Buren on the south, 79th Avenue and 83rd Avenue on the west. The existing general plan designation is shown here on the left, which is a mix of multifamily residential 15 plus, as well as residential 5 to 10, and some industrial. Staff is proposing, or the applicant is proposing as part of this, a Commerce Park commercial designation for the entire parcel. Staff does support that general plan designation for the entire parcel. The Australia Village Planning Committee voted approval 8-0 on that one. The Planning Commission also recommended approval by a 7-0 vote. The related zoning case is a request to go from various residential and commercial categories, as well as some Commerce Park for the entire site, to change that to planned unit development for a proposed project that would consist of warehouse and commercial uses, as well as some restaurant pads along 83rd Avenue. Staff does recommend approval per the stipulations in the staff report. Again, there's the proposed site. This is the existing zoning pattern. It was rezoned at the height of the market for some residential uses that never materialized. It is more appropriate as a Commerce Park warehouse commercial development given its surrounding context. This is the proposed site plan. You see within this some large warehouse buildings here. Along here is their row of commercial uses for restaurants, accessory retail, those types of establishments. They are proposing to cul-de-sac Roosevelt Street right here, and that is one of the issues you'll hear about from some of the neighbors in just a few moments. Here's the rendering showing that area. This proposed recommendation, there was a backup memo that came out with some modified stipulations that dealt with a landscape setback between the industrial buildings. That came out Monday afternoon, so staff does recommend approval per that backup memo. I'm sorry, the backup memo is from July 6th. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions for our planning director? All right. So I will now open the public hearing and take comments from the public. Public hearing is now open. First speaker will be the representative of the applicant, Mr. Paul Gilbert, and then Peggy Eastburn will follow Mr. Gilbert. Mr. Gilbert, did you provide testimony before the council? Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you. For your record, my name is Paul Gilbert, 701 North 44th Street. I'm here representing Erwin Pasternak, the owner of the property, a well-known architect and developer. I'd like to preface my comments by saying it pains me to be on the opposite side of my good friend, the chairman of the village. It doesn't happen very often, but this is one of those rare cases. This case is recommended for approval on all aspects except for one issue, and I'm just going to limit my comments to that issue. Alan, could you put the map up again that shows where Roosevelt Street is? Sorry, you're my helper, thank you. Makes me feel quite important to direct Alan to do something, so thank you, Mayor, for that opportunity.
We
All right.
It's more of a polite request.
Okay. Simply put, the developer doesn't want to put Roosevelt through. That's where we have a slight disagreement with Peggy Eastburn. I might add that we are here with staff support and we're here with unanimous Planning Commission support on this issue. Very briefly, and in an attempt to be succinct, let me just say, we don't want to put Roosevelt through because it isn't necessary. This whole area serves as a hub for industrial development. To our immediate east is in excess of 2 million square feet of warehouse space. Costco, Amazon, PetSmart. We will add well in excess of 3 million square feet. If Roosevelt goes through, all that traffic serving 5 million plus square feet will follow this pattern. The trucks come in from California. They come along the freeway. they turn down 75th, and then they unload. If Roosevelt goes through, they will continue coming through to 83rd. 83rd then will be the beneficiary in a very negative way of over 5 million square feet of warehouse. That upsets the balance that needs to continue to exist between 83rd, 75th, and 67th. So we did a special traffic report that talked about this balance, and let me just say very quickly that our traffic report said it was important to keep the balance between 83rd, 75th, and 67th. If Roosevelt goes through, that balance becomes lopsided, and all that traffic will now come to 83rd, which will clog 83rd and make it a very, very difficult intersection, both for the residents in the area as well as for those that own property in the warehouse district. There is another important reason. 79th Avenue is the only avenue that allows access to the freeway free of trucks. And if Roosevelt goes through, 79th Avenue will then be crowded, and you will have trucks blocking traffic for cars that can go up 79th Avenue, get onto the freeway, and go and traverse the freeway. So for all these reasons, we think there are some very good empirical data that support and justify not putting Roosevelt through. In summary, we stand here in the posture of staff support and a unanimous recommendation by the Planning Commission. I would be pleased to answer any further questions, Mayor.
Any questions for Mr. Gilbert by members of our City Council? All right, thank you very much for your testimony.
Okay, thank
Next
you.
will be Peggy Eastburn from the Village Planning Committee. Great to see you.
Hi, my name's Peggy Eastburn. I live at 6314 West Fillmore, have for 40 years, and have been on the village for 19 years. So I know my area very, very well, and have lived and drive every day in this area. I've come here to ask you, will you help me support staff? Mr. Gilbert is saying that he has staff support. He does not have staff support. He does not have traffic support on not running Roosevelt through. City staff has worked very hard with the applicant for over 2 years, bringing a great addition to the Estrella Village, bringing a large economic development with lots of jobs for the city of Phoenix. The 2015 general plan states the desire to develop the city as a connected oasis. The applicant does not want to do this. They are asking you to not make them connect the oasis in the Estrella Village, not agreeing with staff and street transportation, to connect Roosevelt to 83rd to 75th Avenue on Roosevelt. At this time, Roosevelt only runs from 71st Avenue to 75th Avenue. You can go south on 71st Avenue down to Van Buren and be able to get out. From there, from 67th Avenue all the way across to 27th Avenue, Roosevelt does go through. The cemetery and the freeway stops Roosevelt from going across. I have lived at my home for 40 years and have seen a lot of changes, some for the good and some for the bad. 67th Avenue and Roosevelt, or Latham, whichever you want to say, has not gone through to 75th Avenue. I have worked more than 15 years with city staff trying to work on the traffic problems that has ensued out of the non-connection of the streets. The applicant's traffic study says that 75th Avenue is carrying the traffic load, so as 83rd Avenue. But the study that J2 did, which is the same traffic that did theirs for the city of Phoenix, said 83rd, 75th, 67th, 59th, and 51st Avenues are all failing. And what's going to happen when I-10 PUD is built? We're going to have more traffic, so we need more outlets, we need more connectivity. So please, back staff and our traffic department that has stated that the traffic department stated that they wanted this closed if this street did not go through because it does not go along with the general plan to have a connected oasis. So please back our staff and back me. Thank you.
I have some questions for Peggy.
Thank you so much. Councilman, please.
Peggy, there's a community, a small community between 71st and 68th Avenue.
Correct.
That's right there. We've had calls from those individuals saying that they would not like to have Roosevelt go through because they were afraid that trucks would actually go through their neighborhoods as a shortcut when there's a traffic jam or where there's heavy traffic on the I-10, that they would use it as an access road from the freeway. So I'm not sure if you had conversations with those neighbors that are affected immediately.
Yes, I have been working very hard with a lot of the neighbors over there because they have a lot of concerns about what has happened on 67th Avenue where Checker or O'Reilly now and the other ours, and they do use the neighborhood as cut-throughs. And I have been working with Checker to stop them from using Garfield because Roosevelt does not go through. But most of the trucks that do use Roosevelt do use 71st. There are 2 homes on 71st Avenue that face 71st Avenue. The rest of the homes are facing north and south. And the problems are that they do use Garfield because Garfield does go through to 67th Avenue, but not trucks, not heavy vehicles, usually just all the employment that works there. I have been working to get some speed bumps for them in that area, but the city has been kind of hesitant because of it being a feeder street in that area, but we'll see what we can do. But I do think that being that I live on 67th Avenue, we have had 5 fatalities north of Van Buren in the last 2 years due to the heavy, heavy traffic. I mean, Estrella is probably the most diverse village in the city of Phoenix. We employ most of the jobs. I have a very, very large warehouse in front of my home. So when I worked on the general plan, which I worked with Ms. Gallego on, I was very adamant in adding diverse neighborhoods because we do live in a very diverse area. We do have very different things than anybody else has. I don't think anybody in here has a huge warehouse in front of their home, but I will tell you that they are wonderful neighbors and they do wonderful things for our community. I support this because it is a huge development that will bring a lot of jobs and a lot of economics for our village and for my school district, which I also sit on. So I look for these kinds of things, but I would ask that you would listen to our staff and to our traffic department that know this far better than you and I do, that this really needs to go through, and I would ask for your support of staff.
Thank you. Mayor?
Please, Councilman, please.
So meeting with some of the individuals.
Wait, real quick, so we're still in
Are we in
public hearing part of the meeting. Any additional questions for Ms. Eastburn? Any other questions for either Mr. Gilbert or Mr. Eastburn by members of our council? All right, anyone else here to provide testimony on item number 154, 155? Going once, going twice. Public hearing is now closed. Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, so are we on item number 55, 155, or?
We are on, so the public hearing was for both 154 and 155, but for voting purposes, we have to take 2 separate votes. So right now we're on 154 for voting purposes.
Alrighty. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve staff's recommendation and with including the stipulations.
There is a motion and a second.
Mayor, could
Mr.
I
Stevenson, please.
offer, for item number 154, this is a general plan amendment, so there are no stipulations. So this one, the motion would be to approve it per the Planning Commission recommendation, adopt the related resolution. There's no dispute about the general plan designation, and then we can talk about Roosevelt Street.
Okay, so 155 is where the issue is stipulation. Okay, good.
Yes.
All right, so Councilman, that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Okay. So the motion is to support the Planning Commission recommendation, adopt the related resolution. Is that okay with the person who seconded it? Any additional comments by members of the City Council on the general plan amendment portion of this case? Roll call.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
The CTO's here.
What?
Mayor?
DeCiccio.
You're back.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
I've been on for part of it.
We got it.
We got Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the 154 passes unanimously. Councilor Nowakowski, 155.
Mayor, approval of subject to stipulation.
Mayor, members of council, I believe the correct motion that Councilman Nowakowski would like to do is motion to approve it per the memo from the Planning and Development Director dated July 6, 2017, and adopt the related ordinance. In that memo is the stipulations that were approved by the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission deleted the staff recommended stipulation about Roosevelt Street going through. And I believe that's what you are wanting to, is that correct?
Second.
We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments, members of the council? Councilor Nowakowski, any comments?
No comments.
No comments. Any other comments by members of the city council? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes unanimously before this city council. Next item on our agenda is item number 156. Item 156 is a proposed zoning case at northeast corner of 67th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak Road. We'll follow the same procedure in this case, a staff report by Mr. Stevenson, public hearing, and then see if there is a motion and comments by members of the council. Mr. Stevenson, do you have a short report on item 156?
Mayor, members of council, this is a request to go from RE43 and S1 zoning to C1 for a neighborhood retail center at the northeast corner of 67th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak Road. This aerial shows the subject site in red as it's outlined here. This is the proposed zoning that's around it, which is predominantly residential. It is the city of Glendale to the south, city of Peoria to the west, and Phoenix to the north. Here's the proposed site plan, shows heavily landscaped site plan with a equestrian trail in the rear of the property and two small buildings for their neighborhood retail uses. Here's the proposed elevations for this particular project. Staff does recommend approval per the Planning Commission recommendation. It was approved by the Planning Commission by a 6-0 vote. It was also approved by the Deer Valley Village Planning Committee with a modification to a stipulation by a 5-2 vote. This item does require a 3/4 vote.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for Mr. Stevenson on this matter? Okay, well, now we're going to open up the public hearing and hear testimony from the public on this item. The public hearing is now open. There are a few cards on this item. First, we'll hear from the representative of the applicant. The representative is Mr. Nick Wood. Mr. Wood, good to see you.
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Nick Wood. I'm with the law firm of Snell & Woomer. My address is 1 Arizona Center, and I represent M Brothers 67th Avenue, LLC. Let's see if we can get this to work. I apologize. I'm for some reason, this is
No problem.
going the wrong way. I'm going to turn it over to someone who knows technology.
No problem, no problem.
Try this again. It's in a good mood today.
There we go. Okay.
All right, go ahead, please.
The property is located at the northeast corner of 67th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak. As you can see by the geometry, it's a very small parcel. It's only 1.5 acres. It's been vacant for the past 20 years. To the north of us is a school, and of course the school owns this as well, and this is an entryway into the school as well as here. This is an assisted living center. Along Pinnacle Peak dead ends just east of the site. There's a mountain that's there, so it does not continue east. It's a very small little local street. To the south is actually the city of Glendale. This corner is interesting because it's right at the edge of Councilwoman Williams' district. Anyway, this is the city of Glendale. Pinnacle Peak is controlled by 3 governmental entities. City of Phoenix controls the north side of the street, county controls the middle, and Glendale controls the south. To the west, across the street, is Peoria. The 67th Avenue is a very busy street. There's about 30,000 trips per day. One of the reasons why this has never been developed, and this was a discussion at the village, was that the traffic volumes here, in fact, this gentleman right across the street, Mr. Wyatt, he and his wife used to live there. Because of the traffic volumes, he's told us that he's built a new house in the general area just north of here, and that is now a leased property, again, because the traffic volumes are just simply too high and too loud. The project itself is very small. As you can see, the buildings, because it's an acre and a half, the buildings are not much bigger than the surrounding homes in the area. The idea behind it is to put in a coffee shop, a dry cleaner, again, just neighborhood services. The good news about this is because of those types of services, it's not going to be a destination commercial center. Basically, people who will stop here will be on their way to work or on their way home from work to drop off to dry cleaning, to grab a cup of coffee, etc. Here's a little bit better shot. As you can see, that not only is the geometry of site different, but even the street is a bit of a challenge. 67th Avenue is very wide. It begins to taper here, so we had to make accommodations working with the streets department of both Glendale and Peoria and the city of Phoenix in order to design this corner, put in a tremendous amount of landscaping. Here's a little bit better shot, I believe. Let me see. Here we go. One of the issues that came up at Village was this right out only. The neighbors to the east in Glendale have, because it's a small little neighborhood, they've asked that we have a right turn only. We agreed to do that, so we've added that to the plan. As you can see, because of the curb that's here and the small side of the street, it's almost impossible to make a left turn, so it's right out only. With respect to parking, we're required to have 43 parking spaces. We're providing over 60. Again, just to accommodate the needs, we have a horse path here with hitching posts, so if people want to come and have a cup of coffee, they can actually ride their horses because there are a lot of horse properties to the east. Let me see. Okay. These are the elevations. We agreed to a 15-foot height limit. Again, this is a suburban area. Even though these are 1 stories, staff suggested 25 feet, and we've agreed to a 15-foot height limit, and you can see that in the stipulations. One of the questions that was brought up was traffic volumes and getting out onto the street. So we've taken, we own a drone, so we actually came out with a drone. As you can see, there's a traffic light just to the south, 1 block to the south. There's another traffic light to the north at Happy Valley. So, traffic, because it's at the light, traffic will clump. As you can see here at night, traffic's coming home, and then once it gets, the light lets it go, and then you've got a lot of open space and time if people want to actually make left turns or right turns. So, although there's a high volume of traffic on 47th Avenue, there's a significant amount of space and available time for people to get in and out of the neighborhood to the east. In fact, the neighborhood to the east, there's only 18 homes that are there. So there's not a lot of traffic going in and out of there anyway. In any event, we have significant support unanimous support from the village, as well as from the Planning Commission. We have staff support. We've given staff 52 letters of support from the area neighbors. I have another one that I have received today from Mr. Wyatt, who lives, he's a gentleman who lives right across the street who converted his home to a rental property. We have met with Councilwoman Binsbacher from Peoria and Councilwoman Tomachoff from Glendale, and they both said they are supportive of this as well. So we're happy with the stipulations that we've worked out with staff, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wood. Any questions for Mr. Wood? All right, thank you for your testimony very much. Let's see, Steve Lovelady, did you want to go next?
Good morning. My name is Steve Lovelady, and I work with the school that has the property directly to the east and north of this project. And I personally know the owner of this project, and the only reason that's relevant is because he has good character, in my opinion. And the tenants that he's proposing bringing in, I know will be fully vetted. And being a school, that's our most important concern. Currently, the lot is it's just a used parking lot on the weekends, and I think it'd be a big improvement just to have a neighborhood center where you could go get coffee and hopefully a bagel. So we're in support. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down and giving that testimony. Also wishing to speak, Stacy Wakefield, followed by Michael Baker.
Hello, Council and members. My apology. I'm Stacy Wakefield. I'm a newbie here. I don't have the experience as others, so if I fumble, I apologize. I truly oppose rezoning this. If you've been to that corner, you will see, as he addressed, there's 3 different cities that touch the same corner. And when you look all around, it is homes on acre lots with large backyards and horses. When he purchased that property, that's what it was. That's what it's been for the 15 years I've lived up there. You can do many different things with that property, and putting a commercial lot is not what we're interested in having. His impact study only shows about 700 cars per week. It's Monday through Friday. I'm not sure about you, but there's 7 days of the week. That's 650 cars going in and 650 cars going out. That's 1,400 interactions per week at a minimum. 67th Avenue is so skinny. The middle lane, I have to turn into it to get into my street. I live 1 street south, and just down a little bit, I do have that light to exit on 67th Avenue, and I'm very grateful I have it. And what I see with this project is people are gonna realize how difficult it is to get out of this parking lot on either the 2 ways he has accessed, straight onto 67th Avenue, or he wants you to come off onto Pinnacle Peak. They're gonna realize that that's challenging. By the way, I'm not sure what day of the week that video was taken, because at 5:45 it does not look like that. I'm thinking it was a Saturday, but I'll leave it at that. They're gonna go around the block to a very small street, 65th Avenue, and exit off Pinnacle Peak. Again, it's a residential neighborhood. We do not want commercial traffic coming through our commercial neighborhood, our residential neighborhood. I apologize again, I'm a newbie here. One of my main concerns is the 4 streets on the east, 2 of them belonging to the city of Phoenix, I think 2 of them belonging to Glendale. We have no access out of the community except 67th Avenue. So when there's a service, for example at CCV for a lost officer, we cannot get out of our neighborhood. If there's an accident, we have no way out of our neighborhood. We do not need any additional traffic. I sure appreciate your time. I do want to address that we have several neighbors who could not attend due to the short holiday week. They could not get out of work, or they're smart enough to leave when it's 115 degrees outside. So please consider that we do speak for many. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wakefield, for your testimony. How about Michael Baker will be next? Did you provide testimony? And then Joseph Ornefsky, I believe. Ornecke?
Hello. My name is Mike Baker. I live a couple houses down on Pinnacle Peak from this proposed site. The pictures you saw of the traffic there they don't resemble it whatsoever, especially when we have a huge church called CCV right on the corner of Happy Valley and Pinnacle Peak, and just the massive amount of traffic. Every church event that they have, you just cannot get on 67th Avenue at all. The light there on Softwind takes usually between 2 and 3 minutes for the light to even change, so you're waiting and waiting and waiting. It's just impossible to get out. The other concern that I have is property values. You're wanting to change a residential area and put a strip mall in, which largely degrades our values in our houses in that area. I'm sure that you have your own houses, and you wouldn't want your house to be devalued by having a commercial property next door to you. There's plenty of sites on different very busy streets that this property could be put on that would not affect the traffic on 67th or our street. Our street is a dead-end street, and what they haven't shown you is at the very end of our street, we have 10 more properties which are acre or above being put in at the very end of the street where it dead ends. That's just going to increase our traffic a little bit more, but it's going to make it more difficult for these people to get out as well. Now, they're not there right now, so it doesn't affect them this week, but by the end of the year, it will. The other situation we have is the entrance. My wife had one of the people from, I don't know if it was from Mr. Woods or who it was from, but she came by and said that they proposed to close off the entrance onto Pinnacle Peak. Well, that's all fine and well, but you still have the strip mall there. But with having the entrance directly onto our street, people are just going to funnel around to the light on Softwind, which is just going to create a menace for everybody that lives on Softwind. I would like for you to view this again, and I don't know if you've taken any actual surveys on the actual traffic that is on 67th during the weekends and the week, but there is a lot of accidents that are involving the high school students at Mountain Ridge. That's only going to increase if there's more traffic that they have to go through because they're very impatient. They're young kids. I don't see any values there. And I think that would put a little bit more responsibility on the city of Phoenix as well if they go ahead and pass this site as commercial. I really would like for it to stay residential. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. How about Joseph Kornecki? I hope I pronounced it somewhat correctly. And then how about Scott Sappington?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Joseph Chornenke, and I reside at 6329 West Pinnacle Peak Road. The proposed zoning change lies at the corner of my street and 67th Avenue, as was pointed out by Mr. Wood. I purchased my home in 2000. The reason I purchased that home was because of the type of neighborhood. We had horses, it was quiet. 67th Avenue was nowhere near what it is now. But I moved there because of the residential area, the community of people that were there, and basically the quietude that we could live in. In the 17 years that I've lived there, the neighborhood has remained basically residential. The mountains surrounding us are still there and are still beautiful, but the traffic on 67th Avenue has become almost unbearable and at times dangerous. I'm not sure if the number of vehicles, the number of vehicles that are traversing 67th Avenue every day, but I can assure you that the drone that you saw showing 67th Avenue was taken probably at the quietest time of the day. Mr. Wood did not do that during rush hour, morning, or evening. That is a crazy place. For anyone trying to get out of the different streets that come onto 67th Avenue, it's sometimes almost disastrous. We've had accidents, we've had near accidents, and this particular addition of traffic to 67th Avenue, to me, is absolutely unreasonable. The traffic impact statement provided by CivTech estimates traffic at 67th Avenue and Pinnacle Peak will dump about 36,000 vehicles per year, but they included only Monday through Friday. What about the weekends? That's when people go out, do things, so we're probably talking 45,000, 50,000 additional vehicles on 67th Avenue. If you live there, you would see what I'm talking about. When Mr. Bacall purchased the subject property, he did so, it was residential. He didn't buy the property to build a residence on it. He built the property to change it to commercial and make a quick buck at the expense of the community. He reminds me of the carpetbaggers that moved into the South after the Civil War. He bought the property as residential. He should not be allowed to invade the neighborhood to the disadvantage of the neighborhood to make a buck. The rezoning is destructive of the current residential zoning. Mr. McKyle has represented that his rezoned property would provide services that are not currently available. You only have to drive half a mile up to Happy Valley or a mile down south to find the same services that he talks about putting in. They're duplicative and unnecessary. One only has to drive down 67th Avenue at rush hour to see the volume of traffic, but try to get onto 67th Avenue from Pinnacle Peak or one of the other streets, and you literally, during rush hour, take your life into your own hands. First of all, getting into the middle lane, and then pulling into traffic. It's important to note that Mr. McKyle has indicated, even though he purchased the property as residential, he has no and had no intention of making it or continuing it as a residential setting. In fact, it's my understanding that he threatened that if he was not allowed to build a commercial center there, that he would sell it to a church or a school. Like that's a threat to the community, so we better approve it.
Sheriff, I need to close your testimony only because you've gone well over 2 minutes and there are other people here to speak as well.
May I just finish, please?
Please. Huh?
Okay. This is a residential community. We'd like to keep it that way. The council has received a petition, I think, anywhere from 80 to 100 people who have signed it, who oppose it. We don't need any more traffic on 67th Avenue. We certainly don't need people like Mr. McHale coming in and changing and spoiling our community. I've invested my life into this community, as have many others, and I'm too old to start anew. Please don't change it. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Scott Sapinum? Did I get that correct?
I no longer need to.
Okay, your testimony's been made. How about Gary Swallows? Did you want to provide testimony?
Thank you, Chamber, Mayor. My name's Gary Swallows. I have worked that community for several years. I'm a real estate broker. I just completed one sale across the street from this property, a little north for $1,350,000 that sat on 67th Avenue. It was probably a $2 million home, but because of the traffic, it's fallen in value. The properties to the north of this, we've sold at least $2 million properties up against 67th Avenue. Those properties do sell. They are buyers. To put a shopping center in that area, to me, makes no sense. It'll be more cumbersome, I gotta believe, than any profit that can be made. An acre and a half is really nothing for a commercial place. All it's going to be is a sore thumb and a problem for the traffic. If it was going to be 5 to 10 acres down on the corner like Happy Valley, 67th Avenue, which has pretty much anything you need, or south to Deer Valley, it would make sense. You have very nice homes through there. You've got very good developments, but to take an acre and a half and turn it into a commercial piece of property makes no sense whatsoever. You have several religious buildings there. You've got several schools there. You got a neighborhood of these type of things for the park lovers. That park starts there. With the parking, they hike from there, can go all the way over to Pinnacle Peak, 51st Avenue, and the 101. Very nice place. It just makes no sense. You don't need a coffee shop. You don't need a dry cleaners. And you're not going to ride your horse down to the corner, I'll tell you that. It's too dangerous. The small streets in there was set up for a very small neighborhood. A couple of them are like halfway streets. You got to slow down and scoot over to get people through there. Now you're going to try to take people from a commercial center and drive them up towards a mountain and try to get them out of there, as it's been stated before. If there is any type of accidents, which I can't believe there's not more than there is.
I thank you very much for your testimony. Do you have anything else to add?
That's it.
Thanks for coming down. I really appreciate it. There are no other cards in opposition. Charlie Clover is opposed but not wishing to speak, so make sure the record reflects that. Okay, so that is all the cards. Anyone else here to provide testimony on item 156? Going, gone. Public hearing is now closed. Oh. No, you're okay? Okay. So, Councilman Williams, this is in your district, and I'll turn it over to you to see if you have a motion and see if there's a second, and then we'll hear from members of the council for questions or comments. Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a case that I've been knowledgeable about for at least 3 years. It was under discussion when we made the plans for the school. We saw the school become very successful. I understand that it's always difficult to have change in your neighborhood, and especially around there. This is an area that has some great homes. I'm very protective of people who, especially that have property with horses. We all know that. But I will tell you, from my perspective, this is an acre and a half. It is not a place that anyone's ever going to build a home. 67th Avenue is too busy, and it's getting more traffic all the time, and I think it is appropriate for a small strip mall that would cater to the coffee shops, to the convenience of the people. Further, I think it then protects the properties to the east of it. It protects the horse properties. And it is something, I think they have included a trail that you could continue to have your equestrian benefits, but I think it will benefit the entire area. It will further protect the school. And I will want to mention to my fellow council members, as well as the people in the audience, the streets department has been working very diligently on how to improve the intersection at 67th Avenue and Happy Valley Road. It was configured and installed when there was probably a third of the population that now uses it, and it is continuing to grow as we have more and more homes being built in Peoria and Glendale in that area, which really contribute to the traffic going over to connect to the I-17. But we are putting in improvements this summer, dual left turn lanes that will help expedite and improve the safety of this. So I am moving to approve this project per the Planning Commission recommendation and adopt the related ordinance.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion in favor and a second. Any comments or questions from members of the City Council on the motion made by Councilman Williams? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Councilman Williams' motion passes unanimously before this City Council. Next item on the agenda is item 157. Item 157 is a proposed rezoning at southeast corner of 3rd Street and Mulberry in District 4. We'll follow the same protocol as before with staff report, public hearing, and see if there's a motion afterwards. Mr. Stevenson.
Mayor, members of council, this is a request to go from R16 with approved R4A multifamily zoning to urban residential zoning for a proposed 6-story condominium complex with limited ground floor retail. Staff does recommend approval, subject to stipulations. It is located approximately 400 feet east of the southeast corner of 3rd Street and Mulberry within the Midtown TOD area. Here's the proposed subject site outlined in red here on the aerial. You can see that there's an apartment project to the north, some single family further off, and then offices and retail surrounding the rest of the site. the existing zoning within this area. You see R4 is higher density residential, CO, and commercial all the way surrounding the rest of this on this side, surrounding the rest of the site. This is part of the Reinvent Phoenix TOD area, and you can see one of the Midtown goals talks about a housing shortage within this area. Because the Midtown area is heavy on employment, one of the goals within that is to increase housing because of predicted shortfall of 17,250 units by 2035. This will help, if approved, move in the right direction of balancing jobs to housing, which is one of the key things we're trying to do in parts of the Central City and Encanto Village areas here. This is the proposed site plan. You can see on here. Here's the proposed elevations of what it looks like. With that, staff does recommend approval per the Planning Commission, and with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Stevenson? All right, we'll now open the public hearing on this item. Public hearing is now open. There are numerous cards, all in favor of the item. And so you can give that testimony if you want. I know the councilwoman does have a deadline who represents the area, so we need, if you're able to get through as quickly as possible, that would be very helpful. Jacob Zahn, the applicant. You okay? Okay, good. How about James Baca in favor with stipulations? Did you provide testimony beyond that? Okay. How about Melanie Baca with stipulations to address traffic and parking as your recommendation? Caitlin Penny, did you provide testimony? How about Chris Kelly? Margaret Dietrich, good to see you. Ida Flores, in favor? Did you provide testimony? You're okay? And then not wishing to speak, also in favor, Gene Davidson, as well as Ralph Borkman, with stipulation 8 included. Any other citizen wishing to provide comments on item 157, going once, going twice? Public hearing is now closed. Vice Mayor.
I move that the staff recommendations with the stipulations to move forward.
I'll second that.
All right, so the motion is in favor of approval of this item per Planning Commission recommendation and to adopt the related ordinance. Excellent.
Correct.
Motion and a second. Any comments by members of this council or questions at this time? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so that item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item number 160. Item number 160 concerns council direction on disposition of city-owned land at 16th Street and Buckeye Road. The recommendation was to put this on the agenda per a memo by myself and 2 other council members. Pursuant to this memorandum, we would give the opportunity for Chicanos por la Casa 90 days to exclusively negotiate with the city with certain criteria that they would have to meet in order to eventually be recommended by staff and come before this council for a kind of final disposition. So the motion or the recommendation by myself and 2 council members is to begin a negotiating period with Chicanos por la Casa for the disposition of that land. Anything else I should add, Mr. Paul Blue or Jim Bennett?
No, Mayor, that I think summarizes it well.
Okay. And there are cards on both in favor and opposing that recommendation. We'll first hear from Mr. David Adami, who is CEO of CPLC.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. David Adami. I live at 6806 South 39th Lane. Been a resident of Phoenix all my life. I'm also the president and CEO of Chicanos por la Causa, and I also have the privilege of serving on the Citizens Transportation Commission of the city and also the Downtown Innovation District. First of all, I come to you with history on this land, having family members that were moved from this site, and I've also had the opportunity to work with the city on other projects in the area, such as the Matthew Henson, making sure that the history of Matthew Henson was maintained, and also leading our organization, who has never left the area around the airport. But CPLC really believes in creating economically prosperous, culturally diverse, long-term sustainable residential and commercial developments within the city of Phoenix, because it builds strong communities and for many to prosper. In regards to this land, it was required by the city, or forced by the city, by the FAA in the 1980s. The city of Phoenix began a redevelopment of the parcels around the airport, around this land, located near Sky Harbor Airport, by displacing the residents and businesses from this area without adequate support and compensation. 30 years later, nothing has changed since the residents were forced out. Vacant lots blemished the landscape. Once a thriving house of worship, Sacred Heart Church, now stands as if abandoned. Its only stay of execution, or another way to say it is from being demolished, is that it was protected by an active community organization called the Bronze Sacred Heart Center, formed by community members to prevent this hallowed building from being demolished. During the last 30 years, 4 attempts have been made through the City Council to redevelop this historically rich area. There were 3 RFPs, and 1 was the council's agreement to enter negotiations with an investment group. All 4 attempts failed. Each time, CPLC stood in line, following the processes, participating in RFPs, spending the money on the applications, possessing the experience, skills, cultural sensitivity to develop the land, and each time CPLC was effectively ignored. Had any of these attempts succeeded, there would have been a greater danger of producing a creeping gentrification, which displaces the remaining residents that can no longer live in the neighborhood and their families have called home for generations. CPLC has been headquartered here by Sky Harbor Airport since 1967. We own the Santa Rita Center nearby, which is where Cesar Chavez did one of his major fasts here in Arizona, and we own our headquarters, which is about a $20 million investment. We've never left, always committed to this community. CPLC is poised to reverse the damage that occurred with so many Hispanic families that were displaced, as mentioned earlier. CPLC is closely enmeshed within the community, but has a successful record of developing commercial and residential properties that provide jobs and long-term sustainability to the community. Examples include our investment of $12 million in Cityscape for the Kimpton Hotel, our participation in financing of the Oasis Hospital with $13 million, and the Buckeye Corridor, which I mentioned, which we recently made a $10 million investment with a new commercial plaza on 12th Street and Buckeye. CPLC has the support of numerous partners, commercial partners like United Healthcare, who recently helped us make a $20 million investment in the Maryville area. We also have organizations such as the Bronze Sacred Heart Center and other neighborhood organizations that support the area. And I want to point out the Bronze Sacred Heart Center, whose main purpose has been to protect and preserve the cultural and heritage and history of the Sacred Heart Church building. As a nonprofit community development corporation, profit generated through these developments is reinvested back in the community. And we take a comprehensive approach. It's not about just the church, it's about the overall area to make sure that programs and services that empower our community are delivered to our community so they can be self-sufficient. CPLC is strongly in saying that our approach is not a handout, it's a hand-up. We want to work with the community so they can learn to fish and feed themselves for a lifetime. As one of the largest nonprofit community development corporations in the Southwest, CPLC asked the council to do the fair and right thing to enable CPLC to empower a displaced community and create an economic engine that will create opportunities for generations to come. We also, I want to emphasize that we want to preserve the church. It's very important to our community. But we also know that you can't just do that alone. You have to have economic opportunities for our self-sufficiency model that I described earlier. And I will end with, I know that there's been many plans. CPLC has participated. Over the 30 years, there's been many charrettes, planning, everything you can name. But CPLC has always been there waiting in line to make sure that we can right a wrong that happened to our community back when the FAA required the city of Phoenix to displace our community and gentrify our community in that. So I asked the the mayor and the city council to support TPLC, and we will continue to work with the community to make sure that all the input from the community is involved in anything we do, and they will make sure that there's a fair negotiations with the city. We're not asking for anything for free. We make sure that's clear. We're asking for just exclusive negotiation rights to make sure we do a positive project and development that supports all of our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dami. You went a little over time, but you did have the cards donated by Abe Arvizu and others. Next speaker will be Patricia Garuli. I hope I pronounced that correctly, or Garul, followed by Pete Demas.
Well, may I be the first to wish you a good afternoon. My name is Patricia Gurule. I'm at 1117 East Buckeye Road. I'm a community stakeholder, a voter that has been directly involved with the history-rich land in and around Sky Harbor since the 1970s. Sacred Heart Parish, the historic barrios, and 743 lots were confiscated by the city of Phoenix due to Sky Harbor International Airport expansion. I oppose the item number 160 regarding the disposition of the land in that area. Sacred Heart Catholic Church in the area is our building. Why would it go to someone else? I oppose any other user of the Sacred Heart Church building and site. The parishioners of Sacred Heart, they built it and they claim it. It is a consecrated Catholic church. As citizens of this city, we followed procedure during relocation. We contributed to the city's progress. Our church and our faith has sustained us in all sorts of ordeals. Faith allowed us to believe in safety zones, noise levels, eminent domain, and other regulations that the city purported back in the 1970s. Our church taught us to be of strong heart during the airport expansion, for the sake of progress and the future of the city of Phoenix. Be of strong heart when your homes are bulldozed in the name of progress. The original Sacred Heart Catholic Church was bought and supported by its parish members without taxpayer dollars. The original Sacred Heart Church has never been deconsecrated and will always remain a Catholic church. When I was asked to be a member of the City of Phoenix Land Reuse Committee, I rallied around the concept of inclusion. I said to myself, the wounds of the past might now begin to heal. However, the neighborhood is now being undermined by a new order of extinction. The questions I have are, why is this on the agenda today, Councilwoman Gallego? Our pastor, Father Paul Sullivan, and Councilwoman Gallegos were in discussion regarding the church. Our pastor, Father Paul Sullivan, is currently out of the country. One wonders if strategically this item was rammed into today's agenda. Why is this happening to our church and the parish community at large? We look around and see the ultimate scraping and obliterating of the neighborhood near Sky Harbor. Our heritage is still here. You will not obliterate our church. Why would Sacred Heart Catholic Church go to another entity? It was originally built as a Catholic and consecrated church. The precedence was set when the parishioners built it brick by brick as a Sacred Heart Catholic Church. I ask this because Mr. Adami, a representative of CPLC at a meeting on May 26th, stated that under their charge, it would become a non-denominational church. Father Paul stated that that cannot happen. The only user is the Catholic Church as it was intended to be, not the Bronze Sacred Heart Center, who is not affiliated with the Sacred Heart Catholic Church. We are no longer alarmed and silent. We are a community near Sky Harbor, and we have sacrificed much and surrendered considerably. Sacred Heart Catholic Church is a significant community asset for the entire city of Phoenix. We will not relinquish our obligation to our Sacred Heart Catholic Church or to our community, and more importantly, to our God.
Thank you.
Therefore, I adamantly oppose item number 160 and ask for it to be removed for continuance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Grove, for your testimony. And the memo to put this on today's agenda was from myself, Vice Mayor, and Councilman Valenzuela, not Councilman Gallego. Let's see, how about Pete Demas? Did you want to go next? And then followed by Juan Garule.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. My name is Pete Demas. I am a founding board member, and I am the historian for the Bronze Sacred Heart Center. Been asked to read a comment for you. Greetings. For over 30 years, the Bronze Sacred Heart Center was the only organization that was able to stop the destruction of the old Sacred Heart Church due to the unfortunate reality that the Diocese of Phoenix sold the church and all parish properties within Golden Gate Barrio to the city of Phoenix. I must tell you, there were many times when it was close to being destroyed. As a matter of fact, in one meeting, we were told that we got up off the negotiating table, that church would be torn down the following day. So we're not talking about perceptions, okay? In all those years, there was the Bronze Sacred Heart Center that made all the arrangements and provided the insurance required by the city to hold the annual Christmas Day Mass so that the community could come together on Christmas Day. We, with the continued support of the families of Golden Gate Barrio, along with the support of American Legion Post 41, continued to make sure that the city understood the historic significance of Sacred Heart Catholic Church and fight to preserve it, to save it, to have it respected. It was the Bronze Sacred Heart Center that spent an enormous amount of time, an inordinate amount of time and effort that led to placing the old Sacred Heart Church on the National Record of Historic Places, which now makes Old Sacred Heart Church a National Historic Place. It was the families of the area that built Sacred Heart Church. When it became clear that the city was strongly considering the demolition of the church, it was one of those family members, Mr. Abe Arvizu Sr., who pulled together and basically organized that very first annual Christmas Day Mass in 1987 to make sure that the city understood the kind of support that was there for preserving the church and keeping it a fully respected place for the heritage of those people. Okay? The Bronze Sacred Heart Center has basically been supported by the people who were forced to leave, especially those people who came from Golden Gate Barrio, who were removed. All the other older buildings of the parish, except for the new Sacred Heart Church, have been sold either by the diocese or by Sacred Heart Parish for financial considerations, and I'm sure there are many. We finally have a very real chance to make certain that sufficient resources are put together to preserve, protect, and assure the respect for the old Sacred Heart Church that it demands, it commands, that those families built. Chicanos por la Causa has stepped forward to provide the financing and organizational credibility to develop the surrounding land at 16th Street and Buckeye Road, and also the necessary support to make sure that the old historic Sacred Heart Church is respectfully preserved, along with providing for the development of the surrounding area for service to the community. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them for you.
Thank you very much for your testimony, Mr. Demas, and your great work over the years to help preserve the church. Any questions for Mr. Demas at this time? Thank you very much, and I know you had time donated to your for your testimony as well. How about Juan Garuli? I hope I pronounced that correctly, followed by Dolly Aguirre.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council members. One real quick thing, you know, as historians, there's some things that get overlooked. By the way, before the Bronze Center was organized, and by the way, I grew up in the area. In 1985, he's correct, the Arvizu family, Abe Sr. and myself, in 1985, at the last WALA hearing, we preserved the church at that time at Wesley Community Center. What happened afterwards, maybe that's true. But anyways, let me go on with this. I had to make that point of clarification.
Thank you.
An African proverb says that it takes a village to raise a child. The Sacred Heart Catholic Parish, especially the old Sacred Heart, actually fulfilled that purpose. It raised all of us in that barrio. Not only in that barrio, there's other churches there too, because the parish goes beyond the airport to 7th Street, the railroad tracks, and there was 4 other churches there too that, by the way, had been desecrated. Anyways, Father Albert Braun, who came into the area and enhanced the Catholic foundation of us in there, because I've heard a lot of questions about the Catholic faith and stuff like that. I'm here to assure you with this example that the Catholic faith in that area is alive and well. And by the way, we're not looking at preserving the church. We're looking at reestablishing the church as a Catholic consecrated institution again, because that's the way it was developed back then. Anyways, Father Albert, who was a recognized World War I, World War II hero and was part of the Bataan Death Marches, as some of you are well aware of, there was a story that was written about him and his Catholic faith during World War II when he was suffering other life-threatening diseases. It was written by a person by the name of Dorothy Cave. A group of Catholic POWs at their worst time got together and wrote this in behalf of Father Albert. This happened Christmas Day of 1943. We Catholic prisoners of war interred at Mitano prison camp take this occasion as an appropriate moment to express to our appreciation of your efforts to alleviate the hardships of our confinement. As a fellow prisoner, you have carried your share of the load. As soldier, you have been a guide and an example. And as a priest, as a Catholic priest, you have added immeasurably in living in conformity to God's law. We thank God in these troubled times. You can only imagine the conditions of untold physical suffering and mental anguish that the Christ child permits us. Your fellow Catholics, the inspiration, consolation of your presence. Sacred Heart Church, the cornerstone of Sacred Heart Church came from Father Albert, and I can't give you a better example of our spiritual foundation and presence.
Thank you very much. You have to finish up now only because we have 2 minutes per speaker.
Okay.
And there are many other speakers today.
I thought there was 3, but anyways, okay. I'm going to wrap up, okay? So basically, we already talked about eminent domain. By the way, let me just real quick, this is an example of eminent domain. This is the last of the residence I grew up at 2348 East Buchanan. Google it, and you'll see where this is at. I seen my parents stand before there crying as they knocked our house down. It took them a lifetime to build. I'm a living proof of that. We, therefore, adamantly oppose item 160 for the following. 1, precedence was set in 1952 when Sacred Heart Catholic Church was established. Recently, precedence of it being reestablished as a Catholic church, not just preservation, is evident when Councilwoman Gallegos and Father Paul Sullivan discussed to enter into a long-term lease agreement to once again allow us to celebrate our holy sacraments. There appears to be possible overtones of conflict of interest because of the haste of this. As member, and by the way, it's interesting that all this is occurring today while Father Paul, as was mentioned, is out of the country. 1, 2, because we received notice just a couple of days ago, the bishop was unable to prepare a statement for this body, okay? I'm going to wrap up. The other thing is there's mention about the land reuse. As a member of the land reuse committee also, we spent 2 years working on the committee to put together a proposal. It seems to me that today, if this goes on, this is going to circumvent the land reuse process of this area, which is coming forth in September the 6th. One other thing, why didn't the mentioned parties that are being mentioned in this document, item 116, who were members of the land reuse process, have the opportunity, as we did, to submit this proposal or any other type of proposal? Our proposal is in the final report. I'm going to wrap up. So as property owner, okay, item number 160, and especially those organizations that claim they represent the area, they do not. They do not represent us as landowners and the community at large as they so imply. Okay, it is time to take down. It is time to take down the historic fence around Sacred Heart Church, and so therefore I'll wrap up and say we oppose item 160. We want you to remove this because of the points I made, and if nothing else, for a continuance so we can get Father Paul here, the bishop, so we can provide thorough discussion and make sure that the well-being of the entire community is done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next person is Dolly Aguirre. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon. My name is Dolly Aguirre, and I currently live off of 10th Street and Missouri. I used to live in El Campito, which is off of 7th Street and Buckeye, for over 50 years before we were bought out. I'm here to oppose item 160 as well. It's not appreciated that we are not being given any serious consideration as parishioners and supporters of our current Sacred Heart Church. We met on June 5th with Councilwoman, and we were given the impression that we had an opportunity to submit a proposal to also possibly get a mediator to work with Chicanos por la Causa. We cannot be under the thumb of Chicanos por la Causa because it is not representative of our church and what we represent. We are very disappointed and disheartened to be led astray in this sense that we feel that no matter what is decided today, that we know we will not be given fair consideration for us retaining the old Sacred Heart Church. We have all fought for many years. I was also very privileged to have met Cesar Chavez at Santa Rita because I lived in that community, and I have worked very long years in support of Sacred Heart. I am envelope number 74. I continue to support them. I continue to give them a lot of volunteer time. And I have to take time from work to come here and to hopefully ask for some serious consideration of our plea to not pass this motion today, to table it and give us an opportunity to come forward and propose our side in support of our Sacred Heart Church and our community. We are not affiliated with the Sacred Heart Bronze Center because we have not been asked to support it. We have been misled in many ways by these people, and we don't appreciate that. They are using our Sacred Heart Church name to push this. We do appreciate the salvage of our church by all means.
Thank you, Dolly.
Thank you very much.
Vice Mayor, she specifically mentioned me. May I respond?
Sure.
Thank you. I want to thank you for, and I guess several people have mentioned me, so you can sit down. I'll just speak generally. Thank you, everyone, for coming here today. The fact that this room is fairly full with only one agenda item left shows how much people care about this community and the passion. It is a wonderful community and one that I am very lucky to represent. The Sacred Heart Church is protected because of the families and people who are here today, so thank you for the work. We've been in the middle of an 18-month process now on land reuse, which started in December of 2015. I understand there were processes that started long before that. That process will conclude it will go to subcommittee in September, so we are at the next Downtown Aviation Subcommittee. This is scheduled to move forward. It would be my preference that we finish the land reuse process before going forward. As people have alluded to, people have gone to meetings night after night, very difficult meetings. The meetings around the airport impact have been the most difficult in my time on the council. The impact of flights, flight noise, of people in their homes, very, very difficult issues. They're very painful issues and very personal. These are people's homes we're talking about. And so I feel that it is more responsible that we finish that process, which is very close to being done. I understand that this process started before I was born, and people are very frustrated and they want to move forward now. But I do think that if we had a better process, we would conclude this. The land reuse would go to the full council for a vote, and then we would move forward. I would prefer that we have an RFP process to award this land and the redevelopment rights. I am blessed to have fabulous nonprofits in my district. I don't agree with some of the negative comments made about CPLC. I think they've had a historic and important role in our community, but I also am blessed to represent many groups, Friendly House, Via del Sol, Phoenix Revitalization Corporation, Greater Phoenix Urban League, some, just to name a few, who are in this area and whose members have been very impacted by this process as well, and I would love for them to have the opportunity to have a seat at the table as well. The land reuse process, Sacred Heart has been one of the things we heard about most. We had some workshops led by Dr. Dimas that talked about the history of the area and came up with a great idea of a cultural corridor, which we are now looking very hard to figure out how we can implement and fund. The process also really emphasized the importance of being able to see the Sacred Heart from the streets and to be able to protect that. It really has been a huge emphasis of that process, although the process has dealt with lands throughout the area. And we have gone to the Central City Village. We got some feedback at the village about things that the residents would like the city to do better, which we are working to implement. Some of them were things that were difficult, like we won't be able to put the housing back in under the flight path, but some of the requests, including protecting and highlighting the amazing heritage of the area, were things where we got some great ideas that I do believe are realistic, and we've been working very hard to implement. So I really appreciate the passions on all sides of this issue. It's a lot of people who care deeply about this community and want to do the right thing. But to my mind, process is important, and I would prefer that we finish the land reuse process before moving forward in this particular area. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman. We have additional people want to comment on this item. Paul Moreno, did you provide testimony on this item?
Good afternoon, Council, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council members. Thank you for the opportunity to voice my statement. My name is Paul Moreno, and I oppose Agenda 160. My uncle Raymond Betancourt helped build that church with Father Brown also. He's still alive today. I'm a resident of District 8 and an active voter. I am a parishioner of the current Sacred Heart Catholic Parish, which was founded because of the closure of the original Sacred Heart Catholic Church located on 16th Street in Buckeye. As a parishioner, I would like to go on record to state that the current Sacred Heart Catholic Parish currently has no affiliation with the Bronze Sacred Heart Center. I repeat, the current Sacred Heart Catholic Parish has no affiliation with the Bronze Sacred Heart Center that is mentioned in today's City Council formal meeting agenda. And I have several questions for the council, such as, what's the rush to make a decision on the property? It has been sitting for 30 years. And hasn't been used for the original purpose and it's been sitting there for 30 years. Did this memo, especially this attachment A, follow the proper procedures to be added to the agenda item? It was revised on July 3rd. How can this transaction with CPLC be justified? What personal relationship does CPLC have with the Bronze Sacred Heart Center? All of this activity is occurring in District 8. Why is the council person in District 8 not involved? These are the questions I would like answered. As it was stated before, the pastor of the current Sacred Heart Parish is currently out of the country and unable to be here today, so I asked for this topic to be tabled for a later date. In closing, I come in good faith that other key members of the parish did not have the opportunity to be here, and to oppose, remove, and continue this item. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony. How about Marcelino Juarez?
Distinguished members of the Phoenix City Council, my name is Marcelino Juarez IV, and I am an active member of the Sacred Heart of Jesus Parish. The parish community had asked me to come and address the acquisition of the old church, which, as you might know, is sacred to us. And it was built with the sole purpose to worship in the Catholic faith. Now, Chicanos por la Causa has initiated its acquisition for their own purposes. Historically, Chicano por la Causas has been business-oriented and not involved in the religious education of our community. And as I recall, Mr. Adame mentioned that they wanted to turn into a non-denominational building. We don't want that to happen, because there's a long history in our community that we've been working on that area for a long time. Not only my family, the Juarez family, but the Amaya family, the Contreras family, which are a very large impact in our community. Last night we had a meeting, and they are on my side, because it is not right for a business-oriented community to acquire the property that we've been working on for so long. We have been active ever since we got kicked out of our buildings. through the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, we provide not only for the spiritual needs of our community, but to St. Vincent de Paul, we help them economically and educational. So yes, I ask you to please postpone this decision until we have a hearing from the whole community by itself. And I assure you, I am really rallying my family to have a say on the matter. We need time to be prepared to retain the rights to use our church. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. How about Sergio Siller, followed by Antonio Hernandez?
Good afternoon, Mayor Stanton and City Council members. My name is Sergio Siller, and I'm a citizen of Phoenix, a registered voter, and a parishioner at Sacred Heart Parish. I'm here to oppose item 160. I grew up in the Milpas community, attended Herrera Elementary, and have always attended Sacred Heart Parish throughout my life. Although I did not attend the original Sacred Heart Church, I grew up hearing testimonies of the wonderful community that was able to be built by Father Albert Braun and the church that he built there. The original church was the heart of the Golden Gate community. And I speak now as a member of the current parish and as an educator who works with the children of the community at Herrera Elementary. I believe the church should be used for its initial purpose, which is a consecrated site used to practice the Catholic faith. I have no interest in telling you or CPLC what to do with the surrounding land, as long as it is used to help the community. But the church should not be given to a company who does not represent the faith community. And with all due respect to the Braun Sacred Heart Center for their work over the years, they've worked tirelessly to make sure that the church was never destroyed. They also do not represent the faith community at Sacred Heart Parish or the people of the surrounding area. There's a reason why the church, the original church, was the heart of the community. It's the same reason why we began this meeting this morning with a prayer. Our faith and beliefs are important and should not be forgotten. The economy and businesses are also an important part of the community, and those future endeavors are not what I'm here to oppose. I'm here to oppose that item 60 says the original church, the heart of the community, and the faith and beliefs of the community is being given to someone who is not it does not represent these beliefs. It is not the most important interest to CPLC. So please vote no and let the community who you represent, a community who just realized a hope of establishing their church once again, be involved in the negotiations and deciding who the church, not the surrounding area, the church should be given lease to. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your testimony. Councilman, please.
I just want to give some kudos to Mr. Serra. He teaches at the school where my kids go to. He has an education from Brophy and went on to higher education. He could have chose any school within the state, but he chose Herrera because he wanted to give back to his community. So I just want to recognize that and thank you for everything you do for the young people of that community.
Thank you very much, Councilman. Antonio Hernandez, followed by Sloan McFarland.
Good afternoon. My name is Antonio Hernandez, Phoenix resident, parishioner with Sacred Heart Church, and today I speak in alignment with Father Paul Sullivan, who cannot be here. Today he's away on a travel that was planned over a year ago, and we spoke this morning. Regarding questions about where was the Catholic Church all this time, regarding the original church site, our parish has been abiding by the law of eminent domain and its conditions set forth by the city. While continuing to serve people in the area, 210 children participate in Sunday school classes, 400 families receive faith services, and we provide outreach to 500 people in the area for food assistance and human services. So the Catholic Church has been providing community support since the 40s. And it's still a thriving community to this day, and we oppose item 160. We take particular exception to the item where the city and CPLC should make good faith efforts to engage the Braun Sacred Heart Center to consider them as users for the Sacred Heart Church building on the site. And we consider that outlandish. And so what we are speaking to is not the overall area. We're really just talking about the church site, building in that site. And so CPLC and nonprofit Sacred Heart Center organizations are welcome to join us in this effort. We have no problems with the proposed development and good use around the surrounding area, minus the church that the site's building. To hand over the the still consecrated Catholic Church to anyone other than the Catholic Church threatens desecration and by law would require proper demolition of the altar and disposition of holy relics that are still buried on that site. And so this would again wound our community, divide the people, and interfere with the church built for a sacred purpose. So please would you put your consideration in shutting down item 160. Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you very much. Councilman
Yes.
Nowakowski, please.
Yeah, I used to work for the Diocese of Phoenix. I was the director of Hispanic ministry for 9 years.
Yes.
And I know that Abe has come to us many times when I was the director asking for permission to use our insurance for the Christmas Mass and that. And one of the things that our legal counsel at that time would say was that it's not a Catholic church, that they removed all the relics from the church, and that at the altar, there's a square piece of relic that was removed. I'm not sure which relics you're speaking of.
Right, to our understanding, that's not the case, so we could look into that further, but it's still consecrated land. That's a big concern, that they would be desecrated and require a proper disposition that has not been done, because it was originally going to be demolished upon eminent domain, and since that didn't occur, there was no need to continue the process of getting the church in its right order to be used or anything, but it can't be used. It's a Catholic church and can't be used for other purposes, and so that needs to be addressed as well. But that would require some demolition, some aspects that would be very wounding to the community. Where if there is an opportunity for the church to use it once again, and the church is able and capable to do so, that's what the church is seeking.
But the church right now is not recognized as a Diocese of Phoenix as a Catholic church that is able to do masses without a special permission from the bishop, right?
Currently, special permission is the only way that they're allowed, but it's provided services that are on that area that still follow the canon law.
And we created a cultural center when I was the director right on Hilton and about 13th Street, the old, I think it was the old church. I forgot what the church was called. Santa Margarita, was it? Or I'm not sure.
Yeah, that turned into a tire shop or something like that later, too. It was very horrible to see that happen.
Right.
Heartbreaking also.
So once again, at that time, the diocese actually sold the property and turned that one over also. And that's not recognized as a church, correct?
Well, here, just speaking to the Sacred Heart Church and that area, so.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
I have a question.
Vice Mayor.
When you speak about Sacred Heart Church, I know of Sacred Heart Church that is under the diocese, located on 1421 South 12th Street.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
I thank you very much for your testimony. Sloan McFarland.
My name is Patricia Goulet. I'm representing Your Land, the 20-acre mixed-use development. The developer, Martha and Mary Sloan McFarland, and the McMarlin Pascoletti family. Sloan McFarland emailed the following to me this morning to read.
So you're going to testify on read a statement from Mr. McFarland?
Yes.
Please, go ahead. Thank you.
Your land, that's right, I'm not Mr. McFarland. Your land. We have owned the property for over 100 years. Our family lived in the area for the first 50 years of that time frame. Our project has successfully integrated over $30 million of investment in the last 10 years. The addition of the 55,000 federal government agency for citizenship and immigration, a national award-winning donut shop, Welcome Chicken and Donuts, an 8,000 square foot incubation of tech rental company, Silvercar, that grew to be a national company, and purchased by the co-founder of Facebook, and the Audi Volkswagen Company, a solar-powered gas station, and an organic and natural food selection to bring healthy food to the food desert, over a half-dozen partnership projects with ASU Art Museum. We have recognized the historic significance of the Sacred Heart Parish in its pursuit of the Sacred Heart Church and have been in talks to leverage our significant investment, history, and momentum in the neighborhood in partnering on this 18-acre development. This project should clearly be an RFP to gather all interest as it once was presented by the city in recent years. This has not been vetted with the Councilwoman Gallegos' final input and being presented by her as the duly elected representative of this property and this neighborhood. The property includes the historic property that was Sacred Heart. There's absolutely no way this can go to public process when the historic owner, the people, still live in the neighborhood and attending the same displaced church they would re-inhabit this church. Importantly, not only did the historic property belong to Sacred Heart, Father Paul has shared with me that he and the bishop are in agreement that the building has not been desacramentalized, a serious issue for any church to work through. This same pastor, Father Paul Sullivan, the leader of Sacred Heart and the parish, has had no input in this, with only a 48-hour notice and the 4th of July holiday in there. There is absolutely no way to adequately prepare for this. I myself am being represented in proxy due to the 24-hour notice that I have received, and I am on holiday on a family vacation that I am on. Thank you, Sloan McFarland. Thank you very much.
Thank you for reading that. Next will be Ms. Stacy Champion.
Hello, Mayor, members of the council. I'm not a parishioner of this church. I'm here today because I got notes from a lot of people who are and are community members who are very upset. And when I noticed a couple of things, one, that Councilwoman...
Get our mic, please, just a second. We get our mic?
Got it. There were two things that caught my eye. One, the fact that Councilwoman Gallego's name was not attached to this, and two, the extremely short notice over the 4th of July holiday, which a lot of people in this community were very upset by. Having listened to everything, including Councilwoman Gallego's comments, I'm really coming, I guess, with more questions than comments myself, and wonder, one, why is there such a rush? Two, why the lack of transparency? Why isn't there an RFP? This feels like a somewhat weird, kind of shady backroom deal, given the fact that it sounds like Councilwoman Gallego has been having meetings in the community that she represents. And there has been progress being made with the people who have been part of this church for a long, long time, since before many of us were even born. So I am here to stand with a lot of the community members who feel like this wasn't a transparent matter. I'm unsure as to why they wouldn't be allowed to continue using it as a church, if that's a possibility, and think that it should be an RFP process, like many other people said too, versus handing this over and not first even going to the community and asking them what they want for the place that they live. Thank you. So I would oppose this. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Champion. Neko Hernandez.
You just introduce yourself. Hello, I'm Nico Hernandez, and I'm here to represent Father Paul Sullivan from Sacred Heart Parish.
He sent an email in the wee hours of the morning, so.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I write this letter to you from Northern France today, where I walked the sands of Omaha Beach and prayed among the graves of the thousands who gave their lives to cause of freedom. Sure that all those who serve look forward to the gratitude to a country those freedoms include the practice of their religion without any government interferences. I sense deep pride and appreciation for those who served so that those freedoms would be passed down to us. As a pastor, I also felt the great honor to serve in parish founded by a veteran of the same war, Father Albert Braun, who after returning from World War II sought to serve the people of our neighborhood. Building the community and worshiping together was exercising those freedoms that he served for. Father Braun would be proud of the parish that is still so active to this day. Sadly, my heart also stirred with the morning news that I woke up to, that a last-minute addition to the last city council meeting before summer break that would include handing over Sacred Heart Parish Church to an entity other than Sacred Heart Parish, the entity that building it for its own use, a community that has been serving the people for that part of town for decades. I am sorry that I am not there with my people in order to work to ensure that the voice would be heard. I wish to make the following points. The people of Sacred Heart have my full support in their work to save their original parish church for the purpose for which it was built and consecrated. I hope that you will give them the voice in this process. The people of the neighborhood have been through great suffering and have their houses taken from them. Taking their houses of worship that would sacrifice to build would only add to the pain. I wish the amount to one more time that those with economic interests and political power have their ways regardless of the community. It has been implied that the Diocese of Phoenix and the parish has had a choice to sell the church. My parishioners assure me that no choice was given to them, and the Bishop Roush would leave the neighborhood to ensure that the people. Bishop Roush made the decision among the people to be the last to leave the neighborhood to ensure that the people were served with until the end. It was subsequently decided that the church would move to 12th Street, where it has stayed since. If there was an option to keep the church, please provide it. If there was such evidence that this was the case.
The diocese and the parish have a respectful civil law and continue to serve those in the neighborhood. It has been said that there's been efforts to save Sacred Heart Church. The only way that Sacred Heart is to be saved is to return the sacred use for which it was built. Only the parish with the pastor has authority over the rituals of the church. To hand the church to another organization or church would effectively destroy the ability for the people to do this at the house of worship in which it was built for. It was not built for private use of the few, but for those who wish to worship God in the Catholic tradition. The city, to force the sale of the church in turn around, would then give the church the party of their choice without consideration for the party that built the church is unjust. If it were a temple or mosque, it would be just returned to the place of worship that the party that built it. Our churches are consecrated for sacred purposes and can only be used by our parish community. If this were given over to a non-Catholic group, our church laws require that we take the proper steps to remove the sacred, consecrated, and blessed objects that were set aside for such use. This is always the case when a church is used for something other than it's not consecrated for. My parishioners tell me that in the 1980s, they were only given hours to remove just a few objects. Next, I have been told that we cannot afford the church. This is something that community has been told since the 50s. Their si se puede attitude is not diminished at all. We recently renovated our own sanctuary, the floors, the pews, the lighting, the ceilings, which they did, by the way, all with volunteers, just as Father Braun and the people found a way to do for that church. Sacred Heart Parish serves hundreds of families. Our Sunday classes serve over 200. It is to you, the members of the City Council, I thank you for hearing me, and I hope that you will not hurt the community once again by giving the church away. And so this was from Father Paul Sullivan.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the testimony. That's all the cards I have on this item. Does anyone else here wish to testify on this item? Mr. Adami, please, but as quickly as possible, because we're trying to get through the meeting, and I know a couple of council members have important city business elsewhere.
I just want to respond because my name was mentioned. I want to make sure it's clear that one of CPLC's board members, Erica Melendez, for the record, is a member. Her husband are active members of the parish that we're talking about. Second, I did make efforts to work with the parish. I worked with Father Paul. I asked him, let me meet with your leadership. Let's talk about this. Let's do this together. Offered them an opportunity to work together. I went to a meeting that I thought was going to just be a couple of leaderships. There was 30 people in the room, in the community room. The Guruls were there, Sergio was there, Paul Moreno was there. I had to listen to an hour of speeches, just like today, the same speeches. And I finally got a chance to get up. When I offered, let's work together, I said, we'll do something together. We're all going to be leasing the land from the city because the city owns it, or the airport, whatever the structure is. And immediately Father Paul got up and said, we can't do that. And then went on to disparage CPLC, and thank you, Councilwoman Gallego for stepping up, saying, we don't know if CPLC is going to be around in the long term. So I didn't think that was fair to say that we have not tried to work and reach out and mention that I mentioned a non-denominational church. We were happy that the church wanted to reopen the Catholic Church. The Brown Sacred Heart Center leadership who spoke today, along with Abe Arvizu, who's part of the team, said, okay, that'd be great. But I was turned down, just for the record. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Adami. Okay, that's all the public testimony we have for this item.
No, no.
Well, I think, obviously, it is fair to say that not everyone is on the same page on this one, and I think we'll take it at that. Sir, did you?
Tape that, and what he's saying is, we just said we couldn't lease from him through the city. That's it. We videotaped it. If you guys want us to take a look at it, and then you can make your decision on.
I appreciate it. It's on videotape. All right. So now we have, there's no motion on the table. I want to take testimony. So now I'm going to hand it over to the vice mayor. She was one of the authors of the memorandum asking that to be put on today's agenda. She has a motion, and I believe maybe an amendment to the memo that was presented with this item. Vice Mayor.
So I'm going to make an amendment to item 160. It's 1, 2, 3, the fourth bullet. And it states the city and CPLC should make good faith efforts to engage with the Bronze Sacred Heart Center. I want to include and diocese to consider them as a user of Sacred Heart Church building and site, and any agreement should ensure that historic church remains visible from 16th Street. Is that, you got it? Okay.
All right. Sir, please come forward.
It wouldn't be the right term. Saying diocese would be like saying Washington, D.C. for a city thing, but the parish would probably be more
Diocese
appropriate.
of Phoenix would be the right term.
Then, thank you.
Right.
Diocese of Phoenix is like Washington, D.C., and like the city, state government, the
The
parish.
diocese actually owns Sacred Heart, which actually gives permission to the Franciscans to be there, or you have diocese.
And what if it added the parish on there as well, just another
No,
piece?
I'm going to leave it the Diocese of Phoenix.
All right, thank you.
All right, so the motion is to proceed with the amendment that in addition to working with the Bronze Sacred Heart, also would have to work closely with the Diocese of Phoenix before presenting any final proposal before this city council, if they can even reach agreement relative to the terms set in the memorandum. Okay, that's the motion. Was there a second? Is there a second? There is a second. Okay. Now I'll turn to members of the city council. Any comments or questions by members of the city council? Councilman Nowakowski, please.
So Mayor, the land use meetings that were going on, about a year and a half ago, I was at one of my kids' performances at a elementary school, and I got approached by some individuals saying, we heard there's meetings going on about the land around our school and our community, but we're not invited to it. What's going on? It's happening on the other side of the tracks. And I said, let me look into it and I'll get back to you. So basically, I called individuals from the community. I asked Mr. Adame, have you been invited to those meetings? At that time, there was no outreach to CPLC. I asked some other individuals from the community. They said, no, we had no invitation to these meetings. So I brought it to the city's attention. The city basically said, we're going to start having meetings within that whole Herrera school. I go, well, I would recommend you to actually use the school and to hand out flyers to all the students that go to the school so the parents that actually live in that neighborhood can attend these meetings. So with that, that's the conversation started. And basically, the conversation is how to save the church. There's been 4 attempts, folks, that people wanted to use that land for other purposes, from warehouses to retail to whatever, right? So CPLC stood up. And I believe they have the same mission as you all have, that I have. I'm a proud Catholic. And I worked for the diocese during all those hardships and during all that, where I listened to the community that were upset with the diocese because we sold the property. We sold the school first. Then they were going to sell the church, and that's where the whole Sacred Heart Brown Society came together. And it was Mr. Pete Demas that helped to make it a historic landmark so that the city couldn't tear that down. So, there was conflict between the community at that time and the Catholic Church. And, it was sad. And I'm telling you my perspective, what I experienced. I was a product of Sacred Heart. Jerry Castro and his youth group with Monica Gonzalez, I was a part of that. It's something dear and that made me who I am today. So that's why I take it very passionate about this. I would love to see our community, because it's our community, come together and work together. And I believe that David said that he was willing to work with the diocese, if the diocese is open, to preserve it and to use it for special celebrations and masses. But I don't believe that we have a Sacred Heart Church right now. I'm not sure if the diocese is willing to close down the church and move to our historic Sacred Heart building. The conversation has been talked to over the last 30 years, and there's no interest, and there hasn't been interest. Now, a pastor of a church might be interested, but the final decision is actually from the bishop. Until the bishop sits down and says, yes, I would like to go into some type of conversation with the city to either purchase it or long lease or whatever it is. But that conversation hasn't happened. We try to have that conversation. It hasn't happened over the 30 years. 4 times, we've almost lost it. So now we have an organization that wants to preserve the history and make sure that that church is going to stay there forever. And now it's an opportunity for us all to come together and work together and not to fight with each other. And no, hold on for a second. So
Councilman
my
Nowakowski has
thing
the
is
floor,
it's
sir.
an opportunity for us to really preserve the history of the 4 barrios that were there, the history that my kids need to understand, and to take pride of all those families that lived there for many years. And I think we can work this thing out. I believe that, I want to ask David if you come back up here for a second. I'll vote in favor of this, David, but one of the things that I like to see is you work together with the Diocese of Phoenix, and if they choose whoever they want to represent the Sacred Heart Church to work along with those individuals, to see if there's some type of compromise or some way to work together to make sure that those Catholic values are preserved and that traditions are kept alive, right? I mean, are you willing to do that?
Councilman Nowakowski, I made that commitment from the get-go and will make it again. I just need for Father Paul, who leads this parish, to work with me and talk to me and not just shut it down and say, no, we have to have complete control over everything or it's a no deal. That's a quote from him. And he stood up when I went to the meeting and to listen to what you all heard today. He said we cannot do that, and it's taped.
Well, I believe that what you need to do is have that leadership ability to find that common ground where we can all come together and make sure we preserve the church, the faith of that community, and the culture of that community, and that we live together forever, right? So I think that right now things are changing, and I think that we need to really involve the diocese and the property and management department and have them in a part of this conversation, because pastors come and pastors go. We want to make sure that it's a long-term commitment from the Catholic Church that they're going to support this. It's not just going to be a pastor's commitment and a new pastor comes in and changes everything. It needs to be a long-term commitment. And that's where I want you to sit down, not just with the pastor, but with the diocese to make sure that there is a long-term commitment from them so that whatever's said is going to be bonded for a long time.
Yeah, my commitment. I'll make every good effort to work with it. I'd work with John Maneri from the diocese, who said the same thing. Unless we have control, no deal, but I'm willing to sit down and let's try to make something happen. I grew up in the area too. I had family that got moved out too. There's no fight for me about that. Let's make something happen, but there's got to be good faith efforts on both parts, and you have my commitment, you'll have mine.
And with that, I'll be voting yes on it.
Sir, could I say just one comment since you allowed him just real quick?
Well, this is the time for council members to ask questions or make comments on that. If you want to talk to Councilman Nowakowski afterwards, you certainly can. Other comments from members of the city council? Vice Mayor?
I just want to say, this, obviously, and I know this neighborhood very well, due to family living in there, due to deep friendship relationships in there, and actually really knowing those streets in different neighborhoods, and the fact that my son went to Herrera, and I know those families in there. And this is a difficult conversation, a difficult process that we are going through, but this has been a fight for over 30 years. And it is now time that we, as a collective, all come together, meaning the diocese, meaning Sacred Heart Church, meaning CPLC, and all the community within there to come together to really build and create the vibrancy that is needed on 16th Street and Buckeye. When people come from the airport, they go through 16th Street and Buckeye, and what do they see? They see an empty lot and a church that has been preserved by a community that is in love with that church, and that community loves it. We are all here to make the same, we are all here having the same passion, and it's all about the church. So let's all move our passion and create what we need to create on 16th Street and Buckeye, because that's the gateway to Phoenix. What I would like to see is preserving of our history, preserving of Father Braun, our veterans that served in there, giving appreciation and owning that that was our barrio at our time and that was at the peak. Letting all that, those stories come alive within that area. We have nothing like that. And we all fight for this one area that has been decimated because we have all those memories. It is now time that we move forward and we build what we need to build. I am saying with the amended piece, 3 collectives could come together, but I also forgot of the 4th piece of really the community coming together within there. And so in that piece, in my memo, I would like and community to come together as we move forward on this property. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Other members of the council? Questions, comments? All right, we're going to do a roll call vote on this item. So the vote will be on Vice Mayor Pastor's motion. Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
No.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Stark.
No.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Waring. Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes, as long as it saves the church.
Pastor.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, so the motion passes on a 7-2 vote before this city council. I believe there is no further business before this city council. I'm going to delay this as long as possible because once we could adjourn, Paul Blue can exit the house. So, I mean, adjourn. Paul Blue, you're free to go. Good work, Paul Blue, our city manager, deputy city manager. Great work.